Right before it kicks off, the name pops up at the top, while a little kid's hands shake as she stands in front of the king, towering above on his throne. He grabs her wrist hard, mumbling that her magic is too powerful to ignore, and it can't be left unchecked with a flick of magic, he carves a glowing circle onto the back of her palm. This mark seals her agreement and brands her promise to devote her life to serving her country, just like. Out of nowhere, a kid so small gets handed a burden way past her years. Responsibility she never even wanted, while wyverns drift across the sky, cutting off her breath with a. Right as the threat hits, Brooks spots a fresh enemy looming overhead and shouts to the hero. Then the hero snaps into action, gauges everything fast, barks orders, and tells Brooks to lock in and focus. She drags her focus onto the black dog and orders Lacey, the trembling girl cowering under her hood, to blast the wyvern with lightning, and Lacey hesitates, waiting to strike only once the wyvern's paralyzed and plummets. Balls are pounding through the chaos, but the hero steps in, reassures her, and tells her she doesn't have to push herself. Lacey slams a stick onto the ground and boom. A magic circle flares to light up every wyvern, making Brooks press forward in shock and urgency. To say it's truly remarkable, because Hero is hit with total shock, like his brain can't even catch up. Brooks says he figured a kid like that would be totally fine, but turns out his worry never even needed to exist. So there I am, theory spiraling while the hero rips his thoughts apart, because the Dawn Witch is finally here. A full year later, right in the royal capital of Huraisou. The streets are packed wall-to-wall, and loud chatter blasts from every direction like a non-stop roar. Tracy glances around, mildly thrown off, and then realizes the crowd is bigger than ever, like the whole city is celebrating some huge festival, and that's when it hits her. She thought that after a whole month of wandering these streets, the non-stop noise and jam-packed roads would have stopped bothering her. But today hits like a wave of pressure, and when she drifts along distracted, she accidentally steps on a cat's tail and it explodes into a piercing scream. Startled, she blurts out an apology to the cat, lets out a heavy sigh, and thinks maybe it's smarter to head home and spend the day quietly poring over her magic research. Right when she's about to walk out the door, a voice rips through the air, "Hand over the damn witch," and those brutal words freeze her dead in her tracks. A man throws his hands up and roars to the crowd, "You're free, come grab your painting of the dawn." Then he beams and boasts it's a proud portrait of the hero party, and Lacey is. He freezes, because this isn't some random get-together at all, it's a full-blown portrait painting sale. The crowd explodes on the spot. Some people holler that they want Brooks, others scream they want the noble Wayne, and the rest keep insisting they're there to buy the hero portrait. Seeing their excitement, Lacey realizes just how crazy popular the hero party has become, and she finally it clicks. This isn't just festival vibes. It's the real deal, especially because only a month has passed since they crushed the Demon King. 10 years back, the Demon King came back from the dead, fully resurrected, no mercy. Monsters flooded the world, tore into people, and burned the land to ash, until everyday life shattered and fear clung to everyone like smoke. Through that endless chaos, the ones who finally crushed the Demon King were a party from the kingdom of Karazu, guided by a hero chosen by the Holy Sword. Hero Wayne, the Saint of Light Dana, the Iron Warrior Brooks, and the greatest magician in the kingdom of Kurizu. The Dawn, Lacey is the name everyone in the capital whispers with awe, because rumor says she has crimson hair, star-bright eyes, and a beauty so bewitching it hooks your breath. Yet she almost never steps into the spotlight, and her real self stays locked behind a wall of mystery. As she hears all these descriptions, Lacey can't help but think. Sure, they call her the Dawn, but the picture they've painted feels almost painfully far from the truth, because she's dressed in black, wears black hair, and keeps her life so quiet she slips right into everyone else's shadows. She muses that, fueled by ideals and hope, humans kept marching on their own, and somehow ended up forging the legend of the Dawn, even though they never really knew her. Around her, the crowd buzzes. Witches are supposed to be dull, but this Dawn, she's gotta have red hair, crushing magical power that screams noble blood, and beauty so stunning it even rivals or outright beats Dana's grace. Hearing that, Lacey's heart swells with real gratitude, because with these outrageous expectations, she gets to wander around freely without anyone even noticing her. All while she wanders, she can't stop wondering what to do now that the Demon King is defeated and the magic research grind is over, known as the Dawn breaks on her like a verdict. She's a mage bound by contract to the kingdom, living only for that duty, and now she's stuck waiting for her final role, clinging to what might be her first real stretch of freedom, even though it turns out she has way too much time to herself. Just when she turns to go, a voice yells that only a few portraits are left, And before she can even think, she grabs one, telling herself it's totally okay to splurge once in a while because she almost never goes shopping. Still, she can't help feeling shy among the crowds. With strangers all around, she shakes just a little as she slips out of the crowd, still stunned that the four of them actually managed to be together. Then her thoughts spiral into the question of if. So if Dana and Brooks have already rolled into their hometown, one that's buzzing like a full-on festival too, then what happened next on their journey? Were something they were told to do, and in those moments warmth hit hard, like holding the portrait tugs her heart with nostalgia, but she immediately tells herself it won't mean a thing, because that face in the painting isn't hers at all. Suddenly, a man shouts at her to look forward while she's still walking, before she trips and falls. Calls to her serpent is Wayne, who snaps hello and tells her that she looked pale again. He snapped, asking if she'd skipped another meal. She can't deny him, so she lets him grab her food while he leans in and tells her softly to take her time eating. Then fires off, "Why'd you suddenly buy a portrait?" And she admits, "I just felt nostalgic. Dana and Brooks aren't in the capital anymore," then adds that. Wayne smirks and shrugs, saying he doesn't really care that his portrait has become the most popular. Then he adds, "She's at it again," and then she claims this way might be better. So when she jokes that portraits of her face would never sell, he shoots back, "I'd buy them." And that's when he starts to explain why he says it's all about living a little more comfortably. Sure, painting's fine, but a famous face turns your life into a nightmare, because without concealment magic he can't just stroll outside. He breaks it down. Concealment magic is an illusion spell that makes people see an ordinary nobody, but it won't hold up against anyone with stronger magic. And yeah, he's using it right now, but in public spaces he can't count on it, so he's wide open. Lacey nods along, understanding. Wayne freezes everyone in place, then says work's fine. But those castle parties are brutal, especially since he's a former hero and a noble who can't stop running his duties. Lacey clocks why he's here and asks if he needs anything, maybe even some bread. Then he snaps that it's way bigger, saying he heard she sold the house, servants, and all. Confused, she just stares while he admits he got scared after hearing that, rushed over to make sure she was still alive, and realized he knew. During their journey, he finally snapped to the truth. If he left her on her own, she wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, and would just keep hammering her magic training nonstop, like that was all she knew to do. That if he didn't keep watch, she could genuinely die. Lacey jumps in, swearing that won't happen. Then her confidence cracks, because she remembers how Wayne took care of her the whole way, making her. Wonder if this is what having a mother feels like, even if it's just a tiny taste. He asks if she wants more food, then spots the crumbs on her clothes and that tangled mess of hair, immediately regretting he didn't pack a comb. Then later he presses her on why. Why would she give up her house, the country handed her on a silver platter? She nods and tells him, yeah, then explains it plain. Her journey's over, so she had to sort out her affairs, and she's cured now. Wondering what it's like to live alone, she realizes she's never really been truly by herself, even while traveling, and the whole idea feels totally brand new to her. Wait. He tells her it's obvious, then he stops mid-sentence and thinks like he's weighing his next move. He thought it all through before dropping his bombshell proposal. Then he asked if she'd move into his house, and that choice kicks everything off. Leaves Lacey absolutely stunned. He says it with a cool, steady voice that this is his second place, so she can stop holding back completely, and then he adds that. He says he'll tell the caretaker to stay out of her way, so she can grab the supplies, devour the books, and even use the magical materials however she wants. He points out that it's way more comfortable than crashing at an inn, and it costs nothing, so he says he still doesn't see why that's a bad idea, and even though Lacey admits he's right, she softly cuts him off. Thanks him, then shuts him down, explaining that this kind of life won't last much longer, because in just a month or two, she's getting married to Lord Lamon from the de Jaffan ducal family. She fires back that she already said it once, and Wayne snaps his memory into place. Yeah, she did, right as she keeps going. She even made the trip a few days ago to pay her respects, right after it. Returning, he sank onto the couch in dead silence, trying to read the fear in his own chest. She felt wildly out of place in her best outfit, but she still remembered slipping a quick look around the mansion. This place always gleamed like she was opening a treasure chest, and right when the door creaked open, Lord Lamont strode in and greeted her, insisting the only thing that mattered was that she'd made it back safe. She answered politely, and he kept going. She then lit up the room with gossip, how the capital was buzzing nonstop about her party, and how even a few of his friends were obsessed with the Dawn, even though the trouble was they only knew the famous red-haired beauty, so he had no clue how to introduce the real her. Then he spotted her. She grabbed the staff, and the moment she picked it up and apologized, offering to clean it, he brushed it off and snapped that the stench of monster blood didn't belong in their house, telling her to leave that kind of mess out next time. Then he prayed. He praised her, saying that with that staff she'd cut down hundreds, or maybe thousands, of monsters and demons to save the world, and he was proud of her. But then he grimly added that an engagement between a commoner and a ducal family felt like it should have been impossible. Possible only because Duke de Jaffin marched to the king and begged for it, and Lacey finally realized the real truth was her overwhelming magical power, one of those priceless status symbols nobles brag about, because it means everything and that. And now that the Demon King was finally crushed, her last mission hit. She had to give birth to an heir who'd carry that power forward, Wayne's voice. His voice snaps her back to the present, as he demands to know if she really plans to never take back her words to His Majesty, pressing her hard as he reminds her. He told her this marriage was exactly the prize she demanded after crushing the Demon King, then he pressed her. Why won't she think it over one last time? And she smiled. Smiles gently and tells him she's okay, then suddenly asks for a favor, pressing her staff into his hands. She hounded him to scorch it with magic since she couldn't carry it to the Duke's family, or else face the same loss. That leaves him reeling because she treats her staff like it's sacred, and he realizes just how much it matters to her. She flat out admits she can't choose on her own, begs him to decide for her, and then, after holding, with a heavy silence weighing him down, Wayne turns his back and hard rejects it without a single word. She grabs the truth, saying it's something priceless she has to protect, no matter if she has to hide it, and then reminds her that if it's hers, she'll find a way to handle it for sure. Once she realizes he's dead right, Lacey steels herself and decides to ask again. Again another time, knowing the staff will get wiped out sooner or later, and that doing so will mean she's stepping up to take responsibility now that her journey with everyone, and her role standing by their side, has already come to an end. Later, Wayne steps up and offers to escort her back to the inn, and just as they wander down the streets, he leans in and grills her about what kind of man her fiancé really is, making it crystal clear that he's talking about Lord Lamond, because the only thing he knows is the name, and that's where the story cuts off, and tells you it's only natural to feel curious about your comrade's fiancé. Lacey says it feels like a mother's inspection, but she's honest. She doesn't really know him either, because every conversation they have somehow stays thin. Still, she paints him in details, darker blonde hair and fierce orange eyes, like they're burning through the page. He's got that lean, slender build, and he casually drops that he's around 10 years older than her. Wayne freezes in disbelief, blurting out that this means he's already in his mid-20s. Then he gestures hard, like the truth just hit him. He reels a strand toward a nearby guy and leans in, asking if he's into it too. Just like that, when Lacey confirms it, the truth hits her hard, and she realizes the man he's been pointing at is her fiancé. Panicking, she scrambles to hide, then and Wayne leans in, asking what's wrong, she mutters. She says it feels like she's trapped in her own shell. Then, in a soft voice, she quietly admits that. Wayne's jaw drops when he finally realizes the guy is her fiancé. Like they just accidentally walked right into him during their private outing, and that hits him hard. Lacey quickly tries to play it down, saying they're probably just friends and that she and Wayne walk side by side too, until Lord Lamont snaps into a sudden embrace with the woman beside him, then cuts off mid-sentence as she starts to. Understands they're practically glued at the hip, and that night, Lacey lies alone in her bed, staring at the ceiling like she already knows she's about to. She didn't flinch, no, the shock never even really hit her, because she already knew he'd never love her, and that sooner. Eventually, he'll move on and fall for someone else, and she won't resent it, so long as she can still do her part, even if she loses everything she believes. She stares down at the leaves, because this is the only path left for her. Meanwhile, Wayne leans on the balcony, staring into the night, baffled by why she keeps fighting him and causing trouble. He can see it, she lives for duty and never once for herself, like she's forgotten she's even allowed to want happiness. He blames the contract for turning her into this, but still, he can't shake the feeling that there's more to her than that. He can't help but see how cruel it looks, because he finally gets why the country had to restrain Lacey. Letting that kind of power run wild would have been way too dangerous, and still. Even so, he can't stop himself from wondering, does she really want to live like this? And he prays that if she truly wants something, she'll reach for it one day and make it hers. When, at just 10 years old, Lacey was handed an engagement like a contract she couldn't read, set in motion years before she even understood what marriage meant, with a giant age gap and a status divide so wide she could asterisk feel it when she looked up at him. his expression cold and unreachable, and it's mostly blurred from her memory now. 5 years later, fresh off being drained by the Demon King's grip, and with only months left before her wedding, she finally meets Wayne again, an old comrade from the hero party. And there, right before her eyes, she discovers her fiancé's cheating. The shock hits hard, but her mind goes weirdly hollow, like each day is just sliding by, leaving nothing behind. Another so-so day where she does nothing that matters, squanders every last bit of freedom she has left, until marriage locks her in. She realizes once night finally hits, the whole day's already gone, with nothing she's actually done, and she can't help but wonder what everyone else is out there accomplishing with their lives. As she weaves through the city streets, she suddenly catches a young boy shouting at the top of his lungs, buzzing with excitement as he calls out to his mother. Mama beams as he proudly says he wants to be a hat maker, and when she asks why not a knight, he answers, because since. But since the hero crushed the Demon King, peace finally settles in, and he's ready to start making hats, dreaming of someday fixing the feather on his mother's hat. And when he says it, her face lights up with a warm smile as she admits she can't wait. Watching all that, Lacey S. Daisy gives a small, tired smile as she remembers how, back when the Demon King's threat still hung over them, everyone lived in panic, scrambling just to make it through each day. And she tells herself that dreaming about a future like this is probably a blessing, even though. But when she turns that thought inward and stares at her own future, all she can feel is crushing uncertainty and a hollow emptiness. Right then, Wayne spots the contract mark on her right hand, blurts out what it is, and jolts her as she admits it's real. Then he slides her lunch over, quietly scolds her for skipping breakfast again, and tells her to actually eat right tomorrow. He leans in and asks her what contracts really are, insisting they're dangerous, powerful things, and blurts out in awe what it could do if it breaks, until it's ruined, leaving her. She's left confused, until he snaps in. I'm not talking about disobeying orders, I mean the consequences that come after and. Bound by the contract's own rules, sometimes it means instant death, but she snaps back that nothing happens to her because she never once breaks it. Wayne leans in and pushes the question harder, and Lacey finally clocks the truth. She's never actually pictured a future at all, because no one ever let her choose, not even something as tiny as what she'd do on a random day. That night, sprawled on her bed, she realizes she hasn't eaten a single bite in days. He can't help but wonder if eating twice tomorrow somehow still counts when. She snaps to attention the second a knock rattles her window, ready to blast any intruder, until she finally realizes. Wayne's magic poured into it, and with a sharp twist of wind magic, a paper bird snapped into existence, so unmistakably his that it felt like him. That he always slammed out spells that actually blew people's minds. The note pinned to her chest asks if she really has no request for His Majesty at all, and dares her to reconsider, while it also reminds her. Reminding her every day to actually eat, scrub her hands before meals, sip water, comb out her hair, and lean on him anytime she needs help. Those words that hit her hard, and it lit a spark. She fired back again, begged him to burn her staff one more time, then shrugged off food talk because she'll eat tomorrow. Wayne. Queen shoots back immediately, telling her to come to the castle in the afternoon so they can hash out the staff face-to-face. And when she shows up, he praises her for copying his magic on the spot, then snaps, scolding her. Grips her and snaps that she forgot the gap between their magical power. Because even a paper bird zipping that fast could end a life, even if he's racing against time to stop it. Reassures her that if he can't dodge it, then he doesn't deserve to be called a hero, and stands firm. He firmly shut that idea down, telling her she'd never use magic like that again, on any. He blurts out one more question. Are you really sure you want to burn the staff? And even though she clenches it like her life depends on it, she still snaps back, yes, only for Princess Alicia to stride right up to them. Greet Wayne with a warm smile, relive how you met him at the victory ceremony, then lean in and beg him to show up at more social gatherings. Because tons of people are dying to see him, and he could. He's clearly trying to dodge it, because that print. The princess locks eyes with Lacey and demands, "Who are you?" And Wayne shoots back that she's a comrade from the Demon King's subjugation. Then he asks if she knows the dawn, and the princess is left reeling. Alicia blurts out an apology for not recognizing Lacey, since her real face looks nothing like the portraits, right after the print. For Princess leaves, Wayne shrugs off the interruption and snaps his focus back to the staff, leaving Lacey too. Finally, she blurts out for help, the kind of plea so humiliating she wants to vanish on the spot. But he just keeps moving, not stopping to help her. She slaps her palm on her own head, and like it's the most obvious thing in the world, starts explaining that he brought her to the castle because the staff could take ownership, can only be shattered with magic, and those training grounds are the safest place in the world, so it's telling them to take. They stroll through the quiet western garden, a place almost nobody ever visits. Then they overhear. Princess Elisha giggled out to the man, only to find out it was Lord Lamond, and she wrapped her arms around him. Mothers, that Lamond is totally shameless, while Lacey can't forget it. When she saw him last, his partner was that woman from the city. She steps back to the city and suddenly realizes that getting involved with a princess isn't just a crush. It's a political fuse that could wreck the royal family, and even the country if anyone finds out. She tells Wayne. Wayne hangs back and then steps up. She storms toward them on her own, screaming at full volume, and he steps up to Lamond and faces him head-on, but Lamond just smirks and claims it's all a coincidence. He came here to meet her first, then acted like a simple greeting was all he did, only for Lacey to snap. "I saw everything," and drive the point home, remind him she's his fiancée, and then slam him with cheating accusations, words that hit like a betrayal. Darkness creeps across Lamond's face as he fires off questions, and the vulgar words spill out before he can even stop himself. He insists he and Princess Elisha truly love each other, then coldly snaps, asking how she dares to call herself his. He coldly snaps at her that a lowly orphan with an unknown past like hers is shameless, slamming that her only worth is her magic power, then bitterly asks if she even realizes the despair he felt the day he was forced to marry her, while the crowd gapes in silence. Then, out of nowhere, he snatches Lady Alicia's hand and plants a kiss right on it. He then cuts in, declaring in a voice that shakes the room that the only woman he'll ever love from the depths of his heart is Lady Alicia alone. And he blurts out, loud enough for everyone to hear, asking what kind of marriage could even exist without love. Alicia's heart slams with emotion at his declaration, and she pulls him into a fierce embrace without a second thought. Then Lord Lamond whirls back to Lacey and lays it out. That's exactly why she's here for him, to yank her back to reality and remind him she's just a kid groomed under the nation's top magician, and that's all she'll ever be. And then he goes. He even says that just touching a woman as unattractive and scrawny as her sends chills crawling up his spine. And since the king who forced this engagement is already losing power, he's decided to push for it to be annulled. Right then, Wayne shows up out of nowhere, making Lacey jerk in shock, and he just shrugs it off as what a coincidence, casually asking Lord Lamond if his business is done. Lord Lamond locks eyes with him, grips his memory like it's slipping away. Then his face drains white as shock hits him out of nowhere. As they push forward, Lacey mutters that this is exactly what people mean by running away like a rabbit. And Wayne snaps back that calling him a rabbit is downright insulting to rabbits. And for Lacey, it didn't feel like a joke at all. She swears she said nothing wrong but Wayne. He zeroes in on how her comment was packed with mistakes before snapping away to turn. He snapped into seriousness and grilled Lacey, demanding to know what she was going to do next. He reminds her that the king already decided this engagement, so no matter what Lord Lamond swears, it can't be undone that easily. Then gently asks if she's really ready to lock in this marriage. Lacey hesitates, because she knows it is. But it isn't just about what she wants. Marriage is what she's expected to accept, because if Lord Lamond keeps shutting her out like this, they'll never have children, and failing that role could turn into a disaster. She still remembers their first meeting with Lord Lamond, quietly praying that this could finally become her family, even though she'd never truly met him before. Even after she gave up on love years ago, she still never saw this coming, being hated this viciously, until the realization hits her. She can't just let everything sit there, and when Wayne calls out to her, she finally stops and answers. Says she'll first demand His Majesty's permission. He nods and agrees, pushing the staff issue aside for now, then leans in and asks if she'll trust him to handle this, promising he'll follow through and request. She barges in asking to see the king, then leans in and goes, "So, tell me, are you saying you?" She can lean on him, and he shoots her a bright, confident smile that makes her heart stop. She flashed a smile before she even realized it, and in that moment she trusted Wayne to take over, since he knew all the noble rules and traditions better than anyone. Later on, His Majesty announces that Wayne made a special request, so he set up the meeting, just like everyone's been demanding, to figure out what's really going on, clocking every detail as it happens, noting that even Lady Alicia, his own daughter, the Witch of Don Lacey, and Lord Lamond himself are all in the room then barks an order at Wayne to speak, and Wayne steps up fast, saying this isn't just a problem. It's tied directly to Her Highness, the Princess. And now this is huge. He's got to rush to report something that could change everything, Lacey. Cassie felt helplessness slam into her the moment she realized this mess, grown way bigger than she ever expected. Lord Lamon didn't even flinch, he just shrugged and said, "All right, let's do this." Do it while Wayne surged forward. He jabbed a finger at Lacey and Lamond, and told the king that Lacey the Dawn Witch and Lord Lamond, the Duc de Jaffan's rightful son, were officially bound by royal decree. Decree, but Lamond had it all written all over his face. He was already in love with someone else. His Majesty froze, eyes wide, and demanded the truth, like the answer could change everything. Lamond. Juan hesitated, trying to deny it, but before he could, Wayne burst in like he owned the place. Cut in fast, warning His Majesty not to get the wrong idea, then made it crystal clear that his goal wasn't to pin the blame on Lamond, it was to lock down a solid. He promised a brighter future for the kingdom, and every word sounded like a plan worth fighting for. Saying engagements are supposed to bring pure joy, but if they end up breaking everything, if he ruined true love, everything would turn tragic. That's why he pushed for Lord Lamon to finally get his chance to speak. And spoke up next, admitted noble marriages had their place, then slammed the truth down, his heart belonged wholly to Lady Alicia. He straight up admitted there was no excuse. So if he married Lacey while keeping his real feelings locked away, that wouldn't just be wrong, it would be the real betrayal. Lacey finally got what Wayne was doing, getting the king to publicly recognize Lamond and Alicia's love, shutting down any scandal, saving their status, and stopping the cruel fallout of forcing them apart. So Alicia stepped forward. She stepped forward and blurted out her love for Lamond without holding back, and Wayne swore that just days ago, Lamond himself burst out that he loved only Lady Alicia from the very bottom of his heart, using his magic so His Majesty could hear the words straight from the source. His magic. His Majesty stared at Alicia's trembling face in silence, then brushed her tears away and quietly urged her to stop crying. Relief hit Lamond like a wave. He figured this was finally swinging his way, and he begged His Majesty to let him stay with Alicia, but Wayne's magic tore it open. Everything Lamond had confessed to Lacey, even that being close to someone as pathetic and ugly as her made him sick, echoed through the room, until the whole place fell dead silent. Fell silent when His Majesty demanded, out loud and hard, to know the worth of the greatest man left in the land, Lamond. And he blurted out a shaky explanation, all flustered, insisting it was just a misunderstanding. And anxiety clawed at him because Lacey's insane abilities made him feel way less than enough. Yet the magic also showed that he'd already ended the arranged marriage and was going to cancel it. Rage surged through him, His Majesty snapped his fingers and ordered Lamanz's arrest for his disrespect. Then the guards seized him right after, tore him away while Alicia sobbed, begging for one last word with him, and Lacey watched in stunned silence. He stared, completely frozen in disbelief. Then her eyes widened like shattered glass as she took it all in, stunned, and noticed. Noticed Wayne wearing a quiet smile, like he'd been hiding something good. After setting the truth in motion, His Majesty told Wayne the lesson was done for today, and that they'd handle the rest later, until Wayne reminded him. He told him to watch Lamans move like a hawk, because people had already spotted him. They'd caught him with another woman in town, and that meant this had to be investigated right away. Over the next few days, people dug into Laman's relationships, scrutinizing every connection, weighing every detail, and leaving no question unanswered. Revealing he had way more friends than anyone could count on two hands. Lacey wasn't sure Alicia ever truly grasped the full extent of it, but she knew. She finally got it, how it must have crushed her to be betrayed by the very person whose words once lit up her heart. Then the Duke of Deja showed up at her door, bowed in shame for his son's stupidity, and begged her for forgiveness. Lord Lamond was officially cut off, and their engagement was wiped out, and they were left sitting beside. Right next to Wayne, Lacey admitted the past few days have been pure chaos, turbulent, exhausting, and weighing heavy beneath. Even the war with the Demon King didn't stop Wayne. He broke into a smile and called out Laman's reckless move. They're calling him unsalvageable, trash in taste, reckless in looks, and reckless with his words, and it just doesn't end. Noted that the Duke's family must have been breathing a lot easier, because they wouldn't have to crown him as the next Duke. He went on to say that if Lacey had married him, she'd have become Duchess Deja Fan Lacey. At the sound of it, the whole thing just reeks. So thank goodness the engagement got cut before it could ever happen. Suddenly, a single tear broke loose and slid down Lacey's cheek, fading the moment's strength. Queen snapped, begging him not to know she'd secretly dreamed of staying engaged to Lamond, because she truly thought that secret was safe. It hit him that it was impossible, and he told her to shove thoughts of someone like Lamond out of her head. Lacey's stomach sank. She didn't know what to do next, and when she tried to tell him, "It's fine," her voice Her voice wouldn't come out. She whipped her gaze to the staff, realizing she hadn't burned it yet, and even though Wayne had come to help, but she froze for a second, caught between thoughts and not knowing her next move. She got it instantly. Now that Lamond wasn't her fiancé anymore, there was no point in lighting it on fire. As she clutched it to her chest, tears poured down without stopping. And the moment she felt it in her hands, she knew she couldn't bear to let go of that precious thing. Ever since Lacey first opened her eyes to the world, she'd been stuck in an orphanage, so long that even her own memories felt shaky. She never found the courage to join the other kids. She kept to herself, alone in her own world. One day, shut away in a dark room with nothing but silence, she stared at her own hands glowing faintly, and heat spread through her like a secret waking up. The touch slipped through her fingers, and it made her wonder, was it real or just her imagination playing tricks? Right then, a woman burst into view and demanded, "Why are you sitting here again?" Turns out her magic power wasn't just strong. It was busting out uncontrollably like it had no off switch. Her magic readings lit up the truth. She needed state supervision, and the woman told. He told her she had to drill her magical skills, because this was her lifelong duty, and from that moment on, her whole life finally snapped into place. After that, Lacey tossed eating and sleep aside and threw herself headfirst into magic research and training, so deep she forgot hunger and fatigue, until she finally became. She clawed her way to become the kingdom's strongest witch, already engaged, and locked in to join the team's mission to bring the Demon King to heel. King tore herself away from the capital. This was the longest trip of her entire life, and it terrified her so bad she couldn't breathe, and right then Wayne snapped, called her name, and blurted out the shocker: she was pregnant. And yeah, it was finally time to go. The first time she truly felt it, anxiety and hope hit her like two sides of the same wave. The sky arced like a promise over her head, and the second they crossed the border, the wind snapped in with a whole new scent, plus the steady warmth of the shoulder right beside hers, as the road unfurled from her steps straight into the future. Right there, she realized the stuff she hauled with her was packed with every memory, and she had bought it. She snagged that portrait because loneliness was eating her alive. She stared at the lace in the picture, at the dawn girl with those gorgeous, fearless eyes, and she couldn't stop wishing everyone looked at her the way they did. Staring at her own portrait, she couldn't help wondering what future was staring back from her eyes. A cold, pre-written future loomed over her: marriage, children, and a partner picked by someone else, as if her life wasn't hers. Even if her engagement to Lord Lamond got torn apart, they'd just slap another match on her and call it destiny. Nothing was going to change. Her fate had been sealed long before she ever had a choice. Tears burned at the edge of her eyes as she stared up at the sky, desperately wishing. She longed to roam wherever she pleased, live free from anyone's grip, and just dream of a future where hope could finally belong to her. That's when Brooks burst out and shouted her name. Then he caught the tears shining in her eyes, and with a flick of his magic, he lifted those tears up into the air. He flashed a grin and said, "Pretty skilled, right?" And that was all it took. She grinned back and told the whole world. She told him his magic was interesting too, and he demanded to know if that's really how she felt, like, for real. He leaned in and told her, "When I was little, I was awful at magic, and my own power barely showed up because I'm the second son." His own parents never expected much from him. He'd slipped into cheap tricks, and his magic never really got past that stage, and she told him. Telling him she'd been a kid once too totally blindsided him. Then he blurted out a joke, smirking and asking what she honestly thought he was, and blurted that he never once dreamed he'd end up being a hero, either. Lacey then stared. She stared him down and declared she had a wish, something she was desperate to grant. Then she told him it wasn't about bending the staff at all. This was a brand new wish, something whole and unstoppable. She craved something totally new. She wanted to live as plain old Lacey, break free, and finally experience life exactly on her own terms. He stared at her like her answer held the key, then reached forward and extended. He shot his hand out and swore that if that's what she wanted, he'd back her up with everything he had. He told her it was okay, that she just had to keep her eyes on what's ahead, believe. Trusting every word, she took his hand and broke into a smile, hope flooding her for the first time in ages. Lacey sits in the carriage, staring out as the world keeps shrinking behind them, and she can't stop thinking. We really left the capital far behind, but how much longer until we finally reach our destination? It's wild to think she's finally riding a carriage by herself, alone at last, and even better, it's faster than walking, so she doesn't have to worry about. So she worried about getting lost. Just like Wayne said, picking the carriage was the right move. She planned to walk at first, but Wayne snapped, asking if she really meant to go on foot since she didn't know how to ride. He warned her it was dangerous, told her not to risk it. Then her staff kept getting in the way, so she cut it down and tucked it away carefully. She can't tell if this is a real journey or just a relocation, because the place she's walking toward is the spot she'll call home from now on. A week ago, I was there during an audience with His Majesty. She begged him to let her take the reward she'd left behind once before, and her whole body trembled with sheer fear. Fear gripped him as he begged her to talk, and she shot back that she wanted. She refused to lean on anyone or let anything hold her down. She wanted to live on her own power, and she demanded. He demanded that her contract mark be wiped clean. The sheer majesty hit him like a thunderclap, and he shot up from his seat. Sat down, and after thinking it over for a while, he looked her in the eyes and told her, "You've served me well all this time." And then he added that. And for saving the world by taking down the Demon King, he would wipe away her contract mark and brand her with a brand new name. Her brand new name was Lacey Estella, so new she was barely even able to catch her breath as she started to. Got handed brand new clothes, and this time the fit hits different in this new plate. Somewhere out there she finally felt free, but then she stopped and she couldn't stop wondering what freedom even meant and what her life was supposed to become. For her whole life, the only thing anyone ever demanded was one job. Take down the Demon King, then walk straight to the altar. And because nobody ever asked for anything more, she never even learned what a life beyond that was supposed to look like. She pictured the ancients who stitched legends into the night, tracing star paths across the sky, and she realized that even ships at sea still needed those same stars to find their way. She couldn't shake the thought, if she had nothing of her own, did she even deserve a name that grand and right? At that exact moment, a messenger told her they'd finally arrived, so she stepped forward. She stepped outside and instantly clocked Plume Village, quiet, still, almost too calm. Then she realized the king had been keeping her in the dark. They handed her 2 royal prizes, her new name, and a house just far enough from the capital to feel like a real fresh start, because nearly all the other rewards from taking down the Demon King had been given away, and she couldn't stop feeling thankful she still had somewhere to live. Then she strolled forward, spotting gorgeous animals along the way, and even though her thoughts swirled, she couldn't figure out what to do. So she told herself it was time to head for the house, and right as she started on the way, she spotted a field that looked like dead land, and right there she saw a kid younger than her working their heart out, and it hit her hard. Realized she couldn't coast anymore. She had to go all in too, so she decided to begin with the one thing that could start it all. Small daily moments hit harder when you remember the truth. Eating isn't optional, it's a necessity. The kid shouted her name, but she was so completely swallowed by her confusion that it barely even registered. She honestly thought she'd lost her mind. She muttered to herself that she wasn't any good at shopping, so she might just grab edible plants, like mushrooms and acorns, and call it a day. The kid waved again, and that single motion snatched her attention right back. He snapped, asking if she could tear out that tree blocking the field. He was determined. Cultivate her? She hesitated, caught in the moment. He figured magic might help, but he couldn't believe it wasn't all-powerful, and she'd never even heard of magic that could move trees without turning them to danger. She could see. He could have wiped out the entire area in an instant, but he snapped out of it. He knew that would be reckless, it would wreck the land, and then he noticed the birds on that mark on the tree yanked her back to the day Wayne sent her a paper bird. She told the kid to step back, then he started chanting a spell under his breath, and then, bam, he yanked the tree right off the ground and into the sky, but the child was. She was stunned and blurted, "What do we do with it?" And he said, "Move it somewhere else while we're at it." She kept going, hurling aside stones and any obstacles in her path like they didn't stand a chance. Then she felt totally satisfied, like that was plenty for the child. The kid thanked her, then blurted out an apology, saying the land clearing was dragging on forever and he'd hit desperation. And when he added that she'd genuinely saved him, Lacey was completely stunned. Stunned, she looked him in the eye and said she was only doing what she could, because she had to. Tears shimmered in her eyes because she realized she hadn't cried in forever. Yet lately they were coming so fast it embarrassed her, and she won. Worldwide tears always felt like pure warmth, just sitting there staring at. She stared at her staff and realized everything that used to freeze her was gone because now she knew she could do something, just like that. Now she couldn't stop wondering, could freedom actually mean something, and could someone like her really change lives for real? The butler leaned in, asked if it was just about lining up the items on a list, and then he jerked off. He confirmed it, then leaned in and explained why. That he was totally betting on the butler to get it done before they had to head to their next stop. The butler leaned in and asked if it was for an expedition, and Wayne flashed a grin and said, "It is." Was a companion gift, basically a housewarming present, and it was considered a week had barely passed since Lacey moved into Plume Village, and Wayne showed up with food like a housewarming gift. Then she cut right to it, asking what he meant by opening a shop and who he was really talking about. He told her she was the only one who could do it, and Lacey just froze in pure shock, swearing there was no way she could handle the job. Kane was braiding her hair like a pro, then snapped it into place and told him, "All done," and after. Then he blurted out that he should have grabbed a ribbon to make a circle, and Lacey froze, totally confused, asking why he was suddenly telling her to run a shop before he finally explained. She broke it down. There were all kinds of shops out there, so she didn't have to hustle through long bakery lines every single day. She asked if he really meant opening a bread shop, then he quickly shot her a reminder. She told him she didn't even know how to bake bread, and shrugged that it wasn't necessary. She just helped clear the farmland and felt proud, being useful to others. So that's why he pushed, saying he wanted her useful to someone again. She snapped that it couldn't just end with happiness, then reminded her, straight up, that if she wanted to keep living, she'd need money. Her whole life had been propped up by the country, so she probably never realized what that support was costing everyone. She told her plainly, her house wouldn't cost a dime and day-to-day life wouldn't be a burden anymore, because the country wouldn't foot the bill after this. If the reward money ran dry, there'd be no safety net. She'd have to earn her own keep, and that meant Lacey wasn't the only answer anymore. Wayne could see the nerves on her face and heard her ask how she'd ever earn money, so he snapped back that's exactly why they were opening their shop, so she could save other people and rake in cash at the same time, and she did. She refused to hide away, stuffing herself on whatever scraps she could grab. She agreed, sure, but deep. She'd already weighed it in her mind, and she couldn't help but admire Wayne because this noble never had to fight for money, yet he still truly understood what common people faced. He looked after everyone on the journey, and when the world fell apart, he still stood strong when no one else could. She snapped to the truth. She had to learn how to do that too, and the urgency hit her like a punch. She felt overwhelmed to her core. She wanted to do her best, but it felt downright impossible, Wade noticed. She clocked the worry on her face, then flashed a smile and told her to breathe easy, slow down, and start with what she could pull off. She reminded her right on day one that winter was creeping closer. First thing she needed to do was shake off the shock of her new life and toughen up her body so she wouldn't catch every sickness that came her way. Then he leaned in and asked if she'd been eating right, and it totally threw her for a loop. Startled her so hard she practically jumped. Then she tried to lie, saying she'd already eaten. He shot her a question, when was the last time she ate, and she answered, this morning. Yesterday morning and night, then the day before that too. He stared in disbelief and blurted out, "Wow," as he couldn't believe what he was seeing, remarking that girl who used to crumple and bounce back by chewing herbs had grown huge. So he demanded to know what she ate every day, and she said, "Carrots." He looked shocked, then waved it off, saying it was totally fine as long as they changed the cooking method. He decided to cook her a real, proper meal, and when she took a bite, her face lit up, so good it left him hanging. He demanded to know why she'd only been eating carrots, and where she'd gotten them. Then she told him the truth. The kids she helped on the farmland had brought them to her. Wayne leaned in and told her, "Accept their gratitude, too. It matters, even if you don't think you did much." He shot her a reminder. "Look around, there are countless people out there, and you're still young, so you should." She needs to lock in and train. Right now, no excuses. She suddenly realized she'd never joined in like this before, and it hit her hard. How much she'd been missing about everyone else's lives and feelings. She should have started easy, clean the kitchen, right? Wayne spotted a spider web in the bucket and blurted out if that meant it had never been used. Mean. Meanwhile, Lacey stared at her never-ending list of tasks and realized she had to start doing them. Right now. She'd only do what she could handle. Night crawled in, then slowly bled away, until morning finally took over. Later. Lacey leaned in and asked if Wayne was already gone. Then she told me herself. He told him, "Take your time." But the moment he said it, he insisted he wanted to relax, then marched straight to the expedition site. She demanded answers, and he spilled the whole story. They warned me about a nightmare monster up north. Sketchy, troublesome, and maybe even some lowly lackey of the demon race. She demanded, "So you really wiped out the entire demon race?" He nodded. "Yeah, we did, but then the sub. Their power kept draining, and they'd crush whoever showed up next. He'd disappear into expeditions for days on end, and she shot him a bright wish, and he leaned in to remind her to chow down on something that isn't just carrots. He slammed the food storage full of all kinds of goodies. Yeah, even the horse was munching on carrots. He said cleaning the place must have been brutal too, and as he stared at the mansion, he muttered that the air felt thick as she snapped, "Aren't you letting these used rooms breathe?" And then she thrust it into his hands. She thrust the medical herbs at him from the food storage, but he stopped her cold. "No, keep them, and be careful living alone. Life loves to throw curveballs." Lacey felt this warm, motherly comfort bloom in his chest. Then he started to move, right as everything cut off. Complimented her hat and her brand new gloves. Then she blew it off with an "I'm not impressed." She grinned, thanked him from the heart, then waved goodbye like she owned the moment. He waved goodbye, convinced that once his hero's duty was done, he was. He was still battling, and she forced herself to face the truth. She couldn't keep fleeing forever, not this time. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about that shop, but first she had to clean up. It felt late, and the job sounded small, yet this giant house made her freeze, wondering where on earth to begin. Dana once clocked Lacey still at it again, wondering why magic wouldn't just need a break. Wayne shot up and said he'd go call her, and Dana told him that was really sweet, then promised she'd save their share. Wayne stepped right up to her and said training was totally fine, but losing herself so hard she forgot to eat was too much, so he asked her, since she was a total magic fanatic, what was going on. How long was she going to keep pushing before he finally got to finish? She locked eyes with him, and he was in the middle of taking. He froze when he saw her face, then asked what was wrong, only for him to admit he'd come to get her because she still hadn't shown up to eat. As they headed back, he quizzed her. Did she truly hate magic? Because it sure didn't look like she was having fun or getting pulled in, and he knew deep down that. No matter how insanely gifted she was, that alone still wasn't enough to make her dreams come true. Greatness, but it came at a cost. This kid was reckless and relentless, grinding through brutal training way too young, and that danger was always right on the edge. He couldn't stop wondering how reckless she'd been getting this whole time, and what made her twist her face like that on purpose. Lacey couldn't shake the weird feeling that something was off, because if everything had gone the way it was supposed to, she'd already be married into the Deja fan family by now. Until just a few weeks ago, her life didn't belong to her. It was something she was trapped inside, and it was driving her insane. That's when Viney, her partner from the quest to take down the Demon King, stepped in and tore her chains off for good. He urged himself to move forward and somehow catch a glimpse of what she wanted. Like the answer was right there, just out of reach, and she realized that. Then she finally realized the truth. Freedom wasn't some dreamy gift, it was brutal. And she had never seen days this chaotic coming because, with everything so chaotic lately, the sudden quiet hit, and it felt like reality finally started sinking in. She showed up and she already knew this place was going to swallow her whole because from here on out she'd be living alone. In the entire. The whole house was a disaster, and the only clean spot was the kitchen Viney had scrubbed. So she snapped back into focus, reminded herself not to drift, and hurried to tie. She yanked her hair into a tight ponytail and dove straight into cleaning, and that's when she spotted there were too many places to clean, and she didn't even know where to begin. So for now, she just held on tight. So she told the broom, this wasn't some only allowed to use cleaning tools kind of deal, right? Right, she snapped into action and started unleashing her magic. Right then, she cast it. He blasted the wind through everything, sweeping out the dust and scrubbing even the tiniest gaps around the light fixtures. He scrubbed the rags in the backyard to wipe off the dirt, then swept every last speck of dust into one tight pile. She had to grab the water and get it ready right away. Most magic was built to smash straight through enemies, testing a bunch of fixed spell types to find the ones that hit the hardest, fastest, and with pinpoint accuracy. Chasing perfection was the one thing that made this magician proud. In the quiet morning hours, she couldn't help but wonder what existence even meant. But now the floor and walls were swarming with soap bubbles, and if the grime vanished all at once, this whole nightmare would be over in a blink. The dishes were patted by the wind, then scrubbed clean with the kind of careful touch that left nothing behind. Magic ended up being a total lifesaver. Tuning her power and stitching her techniques together made her feel unstoppable, like there was nothing she couldn't pull off. So she grinned and told herself it was only getting fun, and she had to move right now. She still had to crack open the second-floor rooms and let the air pour through. So she spotted a room that wouldn't budge, then slammed the door shut. Decided to leave the dust right there at the entrance. Suddenly, the outside door burst open, then everything inside seemed to stop and stare. The kid to crumple to the ground, right as she blurted out what just happened, then later shot him an apology, but he waved it off, said it was fine, no big deal, and then he asked, He asked if what just happened was magic, and she lit up saying, yeah, it was. Then he handed her the farm's second gift, freshly dug potatoes he'd pulled from the ground that very morning. Her eyes widened as she spotted the brand new ingredient, and she quickly caught on. Wait, I can boil potatoes too. She thanked him, caught that earthy smell of soil, and suddenly remembered the time he'd brought her carrots, then vanished before she could even say thanks. If she wasn't mistaken, his name was Alan, so she asked, want some tea before you go? And he nodded right away. She wrestled with the tea for a moment, staring at the leaves like the wrong amount could ruin everything. Then he glanced around and said that the mansion looked cleaner, so she asked if that. But yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. He even wondered if it was because she'd just cleaned, and he said that could have been it. Then the mist. She used to feel that gloom clamping down on her, like it was begging for distance and refusing to let anyone get close. She suddenly snapped, realizing she never told him her name, so she blurted, I'm Lacey, and he responded mentioning that. Lacey with that snapped right back into his head. She reminded him of the Dawn Witch from the hero's party, and when she said she looked exactly like the real one, it hit him like lightning. She was completely thrown off, like how could they possibly know her? She figured it had to be her name, or maybe it was the magic she'd been showing, and it left her wondering. Then she shut that thought down fast and reminded herself. She didn't have to hide it or pretend it wasn't real, before she could. He couldn't help himself. He smiled, said a little more, and brought up the Dawn, an adult with red hair, then asked if she was a fan too, and said he totally understood how she felt. He added that if he'd had a younger sister, he'd name her after the Dawn too, especially after hearing she wasn't only. Lacey, being the strongest and the most beautiful woman alive, still felt a crushing weight on her chest, because she knew the truth was just a rumor. She passed him the tea, and he shot back a grateful, heartfelt thanks. Then she turned her eyes to her reflection and froze. He took a sip, and his eyes widened. Same tea leaves, but it hit with a totally different flavor than the tea Viney made. She couldn't shake the feeling that she should have begged Vinny to teach her his brewing method. The kid took one sip, froze in shock, and blurted, that's delicious. Which? It totally caught her off guard, too. She blurted that tea brewed by someone she actually knew always tasted even better. But he wouldn't back down. He insisted it was already delicious, and she just stared, still not convinced. She flashed him a grateful smile and promised, next time I've got you. Would make it even better, he said, then grinned and told everyone he couldn't wait right as the tea. Those leaves had to be pricey, because it was the first time he'd ever tasted tea that smelled this damn amazing. She nodded along, then it hit her. She'd never even considered it before, and when he said the cup looked insanely expensive and asked if she was rich, pointing. She pointed out that someone like her couldn't possibly live in a place like this and still be a commoner, but she snapped back. That's not true, and drove the point home with a straight-up explanation. She explained that the tea set in her home were gifts fate delivered to her, and he just stared, asking if people could really be that generous. She insisted the cup had even been sitting in the house already. Then she stared at him like, go ahead, ask. She finally turned to him and asked, so what kind of person are you really? Because I'm living here and I still know almost nothing about you. He told her straight up that if she didn't know, she should honestly stay in the dark. She said she was curious, and then he shook his head like it was impossible, explaining everything. He told me that when the couple who lived in the well-kept mansion 4 years ago vanished, the place kept getting sold and swapped hands again and again. Yet nobody stuck around, they all bolted, and he even tried to start explaining more, but then he just cut off. The old Wellberg couple's ghosts apparently still haunt this place, like they never left. Lacey's jaw nearly dropped as she blurted out, so the old owners were they ghosts? The kid nodded hard and told her, yeah, then spilled the truth. He and his parents were a merchant couple. Their shop started out as a plain, everyday store packed with random goods, no big mystery at all. What blew up the lives of that average couple was a gorgeous feather from a magical beast, his mother, S. His mother once told him that people swore this was a coquetry feather, a real one. Coquetry was a freaky bird monster with a snake sprouting from its tail. Then, out of nowhere, the couple started trading those bird feathers, making. He crafted brooches and fancy hair ornaments meant for nobles and rich elites, charging jaw-dropping prices, and his mother pitched in to help stitch every beauty together. She'd flash that smile every time he asked what she was making, then tease him with, maybe it's just a little hair ornament. Normally, coquetry is just a plain white bird, but this pair's feathers shimmered with a gentle golden glow, and that rare golden coquetry was prized for two things, breathtaking beauty and extreme rarity. Because of that, the little village hit an era of real prosperity, and the couple even rose up a massive mansion. while everyone in town reaped the rewards. They praised the couple nonstop, and the crowd started buzzing. People even swore that back in the royal capital, they were already calling this place Ornament Village, and they were sure it was a good sign, convinced the village name itself would finally shift. Then, before long, the villagers hung a brand new name right on the gate. But just when it felt like the thrill would never stop, the golden feathers ran dry almost immediately. Aileen revealed that it started with the husband doing all the feather supply at first. But once that was in motion, everything spiraled downhill fast. The moment anyone caught on, the couple bolted into the night. The accessory shop crumpled right after, and all the village had left was its new name, Lacey. He asked if he meant this mansion, and the guy nodded fast, then bragged that it was such a beautiful house. Word hit the house, and suddenly everyone showed up, even thieves. Then they all bolted for their lives, and chilling rumors started crawling around fast. Rumors exploded. People swore the couple didn't just slip away, but died inside that mansion, trapped in a curse their own spirits wouldn't let go of. Some people swore they could hear terrifying voices trapped inside, and the sound made every strand of hair on Aline's head stand straight up. Dean said that ever since Lacey showed up, the heavy gloom had lifted a bit. Then he leaned in and asked if she'd heard any weird sounds. She shook her head and said she didn't think so. Aileen grinned and said, "That's how rumors always spread, people." People already walked into that mansion with their minds preloaded. Then everything hit them at once. Finally, fear slammed into him. His body stiffened, shivers ripped through him, and he started to point. He thrust a finger behind Lacey and blurted that he just spotted something lurking back there. He trembled and insisted it was a shadowy human figure, then begged her to leave right now, while Lacey stayed calm and asked if it wasn't just his shadow, and then he snapped to attention at his own mistake. Aileen's heart dropped, she panicked, bolted outside, and blurted that he'd be back later, and that if anything went wrong she had to race to the village right away. Then he snapped that he'd forgotten to help his father and took off in a hurry. Casey waved goodbye, then figured if anything was lurking, it'd be up on the second floor, so she decided to go check right away, just in case. As she pounded up the stairs, Viney's warning hit her. This mansion's air felt thick, stale, and unmoving, and she couldn't shake that thought. She considered. He couldn't stop thinking about the spirits of the married couple, and if it turned out this wasn't just some rumor of an undead or a ghost wasn't just creepy. Being near them could spell danger, and she was terrified that if she got cursed, she wouldn't be able to handle it, but she still reassured herself. She swore to herself that if she could beat it before that moment hit, everything would be fine. Then she remembered. While I was cleaning earlier, I stumbled on this one door that just wouldn't budge, and now I'm pushing into the room. She felt it the second she stepped in. Something secret was buried deeper, and then she heard. He heard a strange sound and held his breath, wondering if it was a voice. Then spotted a hidden door for magic tools tucked behind a shelf. He just knew that. Something lurked there and she cast her magic, then slipped straight into the hidden room. The place was packed with dirt, and it hit her like a punch. She coughed hard, and that's when she was. She was totally stunned, like the world had frozen mid-beat and whatever came next didn't even have time to land. It was not a ghost, nah, just a bird monster stuck in chains, unable to move, and she could. We spotted shimmering gold streaks tangled right into its brown feathers. She couldn't help but wonder if this was the golden coca tree Alan was talking about, yet she couldn't spot a single snake, if that. If that's true, then it's gotta be why Mr. Walbert vanished 3 or 4 years back, trapped and chained here the whole time, starving, dying of thirst. And the monsters they were tougher than any normal beast. But even then, a coca tree shouldn't have had this kind of strength, unless it was a mutated species with some freakish, unmatched power. Vitality gone. When she inched closer, she could feel how badly weakened it was, and she blurted out an apology. She swallowed her apology, promised she'd take the chain off its leg, and told it to stay perfectly still before she. The second she tried to act, something snapped inside her, and she gasped like it hit her in the ribs. She snapped, demanding answers, because all she'd ever been trying to do was help. And then it hit her. That's exactly what she was doing. She caught on that the chain was cursed with a magic sealing spell, and she knew she had to smash it before it could snap into action again. With a flick of her magic, she shattered the chain into pieces. Yet the bird stayed seething, so she snapped, "Calm down, or I'll turn you into a rosebird." Then it hit her. Those crooked feathers were etched with unmistakable marks, like someone's hands had shaped them in plain sight. She remembered Wayne warning that the air felt suffocatingly heavy, and Alan chiming in that the mansion had once felt downright gloomy. She realized the poor bird wasn't just caged. It was bound in multiple ways, locked away, and its feathers were ripped out while it was still alive. 5 then left to rot in that pitch-black room, every ounce of rage and resentment soaked right into the mansion, like the walls were alive. She saw its breath come shallow and thin, and she knew if nothing changed, it would die for real. Standing there she lay. Lacey couldn't stop thinking about what to do next. Brooks hauled in the birds he'd trapped and the herbs he'd gathered, like he'd just struck gold. She hauled those monsters in from the nearby village. Then Lacey grinned and decided she'd roast them for dinner that very night. Right there, she had 2 water bird monster pieces, a fistful of fresh herbs and plenty of seasonings, ready too. She remembered the first time she ever cooked. Wayne was right there. And even though she'd never cooked a day in her life, she kept insisting she'd somehow never cooked at all. She only managed to help a bit, but the food tasted way better than she expected. So for now, she could only pray it would be just enough. Her very first shot at making a healing potion came from her own hands. She set the bird on a chair anyway, even though she knew it didn't belong there. Then she leaned in and commanded it to stay put, nowhere else. Wayne's medicinal plant kicked in way faster than she ever expected, and for a second she wondered if he somehow sensed it. But deep down, she knew there was no way he could have predicted something like this. As she slammed through the kitchen duties, she kept clinging, refusing to let it go. She flicked a glance at the bird, and in the light, the last thin streaks of gold in its brown feathers practically gleamed. She feared the golden feathers got stripped away first, and once they were gone, it started tearing off its own to survive. Then she figured someone had chopped off its snake tail since it was a problem, which would explain why it looked so weak, and in her head, that's how it all played out. She stared at the idea and wondered what it must have looked like in its original form, tempted to ask the villagers straight up. But Alan's words made it clear they had no clue at all, so she swallowed the thought and let it go. She decided she'd wait until the bitterness inside the bird finally died down, and once she finished the healing potion, she realized it wasn't anything magical at all, just a plain potion that barely soothed wounds and wiped off a bit of fatigue. She tried to slip it into the bird's mouth, but it fought back, snapping and pecking at her, while she stayed steady and reassured it. It's just medicine, nothing dangerous. After a brutal staring contest, she froze mid-sentence, like something in her just snapped. She finally got the potion into its mouth, and for one breath the bird went still. Then it erupted in another furious cry, and Lacey finally clocked it. Its power hadn't bounced back anywhere near as much as she'd hoped, and for a bird monster, that potion should have hit way harder, so she had to act fast. Then it hit him. Maybe that thing they stole wasn't just any feather at all, but a magic one, a real magic feather. Magic feathers. Others act like a second heart for winged monsters, hoarding and pumping magic energy through their bodies until it all flows. If they lose them, the monster can barely move with any real power, and it slashes their lifespan and stamina way harder than they expect. A monster. A monster that's lost its magic feathers is basically a bucket with holes. Magic energy pours out and never stays. To bring them back, you've got to dump an insane surge of magic into them all at once, way more than what naturally seeps out. Lacey knew a holy maiden's power could maybe bring her back, but with that impossible, she felt utterly boxed in. Then it hit her, Alan's field, and how Wayne's medicinal plants had sunk into the soil and thrived. Medicinal plants drink magic from the soil, then once they're fed, they explode outward, spreading and multiplying fast. If she in. She poured pure magic into the land, and the plants drank it up, swelling with rich, glowing power. Then she stepped back, ready to move on. He slipped back home while the bird dozed beside the fire, tucked in tight to stay warm. That night it was potatoes and veggies on the table, and she couldn't help but think the boiling came out perfect, until she paused. She tossed the food right by the bird's beak and leaned in, asking if it wanted to eat. Then the bird. The bird started snatching tiny bites, and just that alone made Lacey's whole world lit up. Then the next chapter hit. So she brewed a way stronger healing potion, packed with magic-rich medicinal plants, then refined it with total care, because she was certain, if she pushed the potion's magic quantity high enough, those magic feathers could finally regenerate for real. When she rushed to hand it to the bird, her hands came up empty. The bird was gone. Then she spotted it again in the dark room, just where it had been locked away. The rain outside still wouldn't let up, and she suddenly noticed. He noticed something terrifying. Every time it rained, the bird thinned out more and more, and the little flame beside it shook like it was about to die for good. She softly touched the bird, then pleaded with it to forgive her. She let the potion guide her as she drank, and the second it hit, her feathers shot back into place, red and gold light blazing all over, and Lacey finally knew the potion had worked, though. Still, the second she laid eyes on it, her gut screamed something was off, because the magic feathers were back, yet the magic was clearly not right. Magic energy inside its body hadn't even finished healing yet. If this keeps going, it doesn't just slip away, it dies. She felt the rain slam down harder and harder, and she couldn't shake the fear that it might be dragging the recovery back down with it. Story, she snapped her fingers with magic and forced the rain to stop. Yeah, like that. She suddenly remembered Wayne once telling her that her name fit her perfectly, even though she swore it sounded way too exaggerated, like a whole star had been dropped into the story. She figured the lacework in that painting fit the name way better. Everyone called it beautiful, everyone admired it, than he once told her. He told her that someday it would all click, and she'd finally understand what it truly meant. Right in the present, the rain finally broke, and the storm just vanished into silence. She wheeled back to the bird and demanded to know how it was feeling. Hoping it might actually help. Then it hit her, the truth snapping into place and the creature. The thing in front of her wasn't a cockatrice. It was a phoenix, roaring in red and gold fire, its blazing crest and burning tail lighting up everything in sight. Now it all clicked. Its body crumpled under the rain, but it somehow endured, and the magic energy she'd unleashed earlier finally got drained, fully absorbed, and poured back into it until it snapped back into its real form. It was her very first time seeing a real phoenix up close, and she couldn't even breathe. Even so, fear still haunted its eyes, and she knew this thing had to be worn out from being trapped for so long. She gently pushed it on, whispering, "You can do this," and then, suddenly, the phoenix burst its wings wide and launched into the sky. She couldn't tear her eyes away. Much did leave and flashed a smile, thinking she hadn't used that much magic in ages, and telling herself to eat properly afterward as she spun toward the doorway, something caught her eye. An egg on the floor shook and trembled right in front of her. Her eyes cracked open, and a brand new phoenix burst out, blazing into the world. The tiny phoenix flapped in clumsily toward her, and Lacey froze, totally stunned, trying to wrap her head around what just happened as she strides through the forest. She keeps her eyes sharp on every shadow, and then she spots it. Puddles way bigger than they should be, and that's when her breath catches. Her mind tumbles back to yesterday's brutal rain, storming harder than anything she'd ever seen. It hit her way harder than she expected, but right then her head was tangled up in everything else. By the time the day ends, her whole life's been turned upside down, including watching a baby phoenix be born out of nowhere. And the moment she hears she's the one who has to raise it, a deep, exhausted sigh rips out of her. Raising a red chick is hard enough, but a phoenix, that's a whole different nightmare. She has zero clue how to raise it, and she can't even figure out what on earth it eats. After sprinting around for what felt like forever, she finally thought she'd get a break. Then the phoenix dropped off and fell asleep, leaving her totally lost about how she's even supposed to feed it. She doesn't have a choice. She snaps to action and races to the village general store, grabbing every ingredient that even might asterisk be edible. When she finally arrives, the whole place is packed. Villagers are shouting non-stop about how the back of the village caved in and how the road has turned to brutal, deep mud, so there's nothing they can do. They mutter that repairs will probably take forever. Then her shoulders lock up when someone brings up a thunder-sounding blast that ripped through the night, and everyone starts asking where it hit. She can't stop wondering if that thunder was triggered by her, and it scrambles her head into a mix of guilt and doubt. But the truth is she already planned to hit the general store, so she has to go. Yet as she starts to move, uncertainty claws at her. What if the shop's closed? What if she's about to make a mess? Or what if something urgent is waiting for her back home? She forces a tiny smile, then tells herself it's best to go back home, especially with all that prep still waiting. First comes the ingredients, then she starts moving. Just as she starts to go, a man suddenly snaps out, calling her name and saying. He says he doesn't recognize her at all, shoots a question, where she's from, and then she turns. He whips around to face him, worry flashing across his face, completely stumped on what to say. He snaps into panic and fires off rapid questions. Does she come from the town? Who's with her? Where the carriage is? Crushing her under his mounting fear. Fear hits her like a punch and she blurts, "No, no one explains that." And that there's not a single road that could possibly get her there this fast, because she lives up in the hill house right here in this village. At that exact moment, a boy yells for his dad, screaming that so they search everywhere for something new, and come up empty-handed, which sets off the next disaster right after this. The man tenses up instantly, then Alan's eyes snap to Lacey, and he slams to a stop in pure shock, blurting, "Why is she with my father?" But she can only murmured under her breath, still stuck on the same question just moments later. She slips into the house with everyone else, and right there Alan's mother, Trisha, is lying in bed, sick and fading, with an old lady nearby. That lady demands to know if Cargo found any medical herbs, and he snaps back that he didn't. because he and Alan tore through the whole village, only to find the same thing as always. Dried stuff, nothing fresh, and then the old lady snaps that this is bad. Trisha just started bleeding again a little while ago, and if it keeps going, her mother won't make it to childbirth. For now. Now the woman QUY letter 1 EBFT to dive in and whip up a brand new medical bath. Lacey Q. He calls out to Alan, steps closer, and speaks in a low voice as she admits she followed him without really getting what was happening, then blurts, "What's going on?" Alan leans in and tells her, "I warned you, your little brother or sister would be here soon. And today's the day. For the birth, they have to stock up on a mountain of dried medical herbs, the medical soup he's boiling. That stuff usually restores stamina and eases pain. But this time, his mother's bleeding is way worse than normal. If they don't get top-shelf medical herbs to brew a real recovery potion, things could turn deadly fast." He tore through the whole village searching for herbs, but nothing right ever showed up. Until Lacey cut in, grinning, saying she had them all along. She owned medical herbs strong enough to brew a recovery potion. She wastes zero time, sprints back to her mansion and tears through the halls, hunting for them as they vanish in the dark, one search breath at a time. In a rush, she carelessly bumps the phoenix, and it topples over. He blurts out a quick apology and carefully snatches the phone back up. Snatches him up and rockets into a sprint, hauling him back at full speed the moment when she truly thought her life had nowhere left to go, alive or dead. It all felt the same. Everything flipped the moment she learned the truth. Staring up into the endless sky, the brightness hit like a knockout, and the heat in the air weighed down everything. Salt-stung tears sparked joy when their hands finally met. Hand tightening back to that pulse in someone's chest, the feet. Feeling utterly irresistible, two lives intertwined. Now it could vanish before her eyes, and she has zero clue what kind of world she's even standing in, no. She doesn't even want to think about it, and before long she'll be forced to. She rushes back to his place, drops the medical herbs in their hands, and asks if she can borrow the kitchen. After a few minutes, she's already done, mixing up recovery medicine and whipping together a medicinal soup. She tells him, step by step, to spread the recovery medicine softly over her belly, because it soaks right through the skin. Then explains that the medicinal soup is brewed from the same herbs, and it has to cool down a bit before she can drink it. He obeys her every word and rushes to help his mother sip the soup, right at that exact moment. Right then, Lacey feels it, Cargo staring at her like she's about to blow the whole operation wide open, and she blurts that if those herbs aren't enough, she'll dash home and grab more, but he shakes his head and cuts her off, because that's not the point. Reason, then he yanks something out and shoves it into her hands, right on. He throws out an apology, says this is all he's got right now, but swears he'll pay the rest later. AC immediately snaps that she can't accept it, then she wonders if it might fit Lacey too, because the person who twalled in those fields would naturally want to show gratitude the right way. She slips a single coin out of the pouch and snaps, "This is enough." Cargo's eyes go wide in shock as he tries to. She tries to push him back, but she straight up tells him she's already in Alan's debt too. So he lets out a quiet sigh and nods, promising he'll have Alan. And he'd come back for those tables later. Only this time, it wasn't the situation that messed him up, it was his own total lack of prep. He straight up admits he never expected things to get this wild. Like he should have been ready for even more curveballs because she already knew that kid would be born today thanks to the Oracle. So when Lacey hears that word, pure confusion hits her. Fusion leans in and asks her, "Don't you have one back in your hometown?" And she explains it's the village fortune teller, because once a child is on the way, whole families trek to the Oracle to learn the predicted birth date and pick a name that fits. Because the village has 0 doctors, they scramble to get one from a nearby town to show up right around the predicted date. Then Lacey blurts, "Where's the doctor?" And his face immediately falls. He drags her outside, points to the streets choking under yesterday's rain, and breaks it all down as the floodwater keeps rising, explaining. The river burst its banks, smashed the bridge to pieces, and now the crossing is gone. No one can get over anymore. Even though the doctor had already made it to the other side, when Lacey chose to live in this village, she carefully checked. She scanned the map and it was crystal clear. No detour was anywhere nearby. Even if she forced herself onto a longer route, the bridge over in the next area might have been swept out too, the Phoenix. She sat on her shoulder, then, out of nowhere, started making tiny little noises that made. He makes her ask if he's okay, and right then the rain slams back down. She snaps to attention and realizes if they don't move now, even the riverbank could give way, and she has no clue when it'll happen, all of us. With a jolt of panic in her voice, she tells Cargo, and everyone else, to back up fast because she's about to try something dangerous. Cargo's eyes go wide and she blurts, "Don't do that," because the truth is, what she's about to do is deadly dangerous. Lacey locks eyes with the Phoenix and coos, "You don't like the rain, do you?" Then she tells him to go wait with Cargo and the others. The moment the idea lands, the Phoenix erupts in upset, puffing up like it can't believe it. He takes that air in, like a stubborn pout, and right then a brutal barrier snaps up around them. Lacey gasps as a fire barrier snaps into place, stares at baby Phoenix and blurts, "You did that." Then she gratefully thanks him. And just like that, using magic suddenly got way easier for her. Everyone just stares in shock as she steps forward and starts walking on water like it's nothing. Cargo is utterly stunned, because the way she brewed that healing potion earlier wasn't just good. It was unreal, even after Alan told him she was an amazing witch. This goes way past anything he ever thought she could do. Lacey stares at how wide the river is and realizes she can't just snap a bridge into existence with the wood nearby, so she debates ferrying people across by floating them, or hauling them one by one. But casting magic on bodies that aren't used to it feels like walking into danger. And then, in the end, she finally lands on the truth. Simple magic is the smartest choice. She lifts her staff, and the rushing water snaps into ice, trapping everything in its wake. Everyone froze in silence, staring at her. She whirls back and yells to them, telling them they can cross the river for a while. So she thickened the ice just right, and even the carriage could roll over it safely. As he watches her, Cargo's mind snaps. Could she be Lacey, the Witch of Dawn? And then he copies her move fast. But he shoots that thought down right away, because even if her magic looks unreal, it still has to be impossible. Because no matter how he stares at her, she just doesn't match the portrait, and he just can't wrap his head around it. How could a tiny girl like her ever have stood up to the demon lord? Then it hits him. Only one thing matters right now, and he bolts off running, sprinting straight toward wherever he needs to go. Over tea, Wayne grins and says he never thought the day would arrive when Lacey would be the one pouring him tea. And he adds that just the smell alone feels comforting, and Lacey grins, saying she's relieved it all turned out well, even if she can't pull it off as smoothly as Wayne does. After he takes a sip, Wayne lets out a breath of relief, because from what he can see, she's living like a storm, way more active than he ever expected. Or saving a dying phoenix by catching its egg, raising the hatchling phoenix it spits out, and even freezing a whole river just to save villagers in trouble. Yeah, that's not exactly an ordinary life. He gives a soft laugh and admits it sounds exhausting, but also says it's fulfilling, and that fulfillment is what matters most. Lacey shrugs off lively as the wrong vibe, then her face tightens fast. She presses him on whether he really still thinks the child is a phoenix, since people first mistook it for a cockatrice variant. Wayne fires back without skipping a beat. It's a phoenix. And even he can't hide the shock, because seeing one in its juvenile form is his first time too. And you know what's wild? Phoenixes are so rare that even adventurers rarely get a single glimpse. And the truth is, anyone living a normal life would never even run into a cockatrice like that. But he says it's a lucky break, that the villagers totally misread everything. Because if they'd realized it was a phoenix, this whole mess wouldn't have ended with nothing more than a few feathers being shaken loose. Even so, he insists he's thrilled that the medical herbs he brought actually worked, because what they turned into is way bigger than he ever imagined. Magic and the soil were basically a perfect match, and Lacey couldn't agree more. She says everything's getting stronger day by day. But Wayne points out the wild truth. This change isn't just about size. The quality is straight up remarkable. If something like this hit the market carelessly, it'd spark chaos overnight. Lacey's made it clear she's got no plans to sell it for now, and she goes on to suggest. It's basically saying, if Wayne thinks it'll help, grab it and bring it along, because it could make a huge difference on those subjugation expeditions. Then Wayne goes and reports back. Some people say, sure, that might be true, but there's absolutely no reason, none, to back that up. He can't even figure out a fair price for something like this. Yet she cuts him off and says she doesn't want a payment because the herbs were his to begin with. And for now, they're mostly there to keep baby Phoenix fed and happy. A soft smile blooms on Wayne's face as he teases that he might get way too attached to it. Then he pauses, saying if she gives him the right warnings, she'll make sure he knows, and if that is. He shrugs off the tension and tells her he'll gladly accept her offer, no hesitation. Then he leans in and asks the real question. Is she going to name that baby Phoenix, because calling him that child is going to get wildly inconvenient fast? Lacey goes quiet for a beat, then admits she can't stop thinking about it, and asks if she can slip out for a while since they'll be heading to the Oracle's house later. Wayne's jaw drops. He asks if she really plans to drag the oracle into this just to name the bird. But she snaps back that he could have stayed home and waited for her to come back. She storms in and catches Alan in the middle of a heated fight with his own father, yelling about the cargo, how Lacey's already in the village, and that everything is a mess already, so what else is going to go wrong? Cargo tells him he gets it, but if it came to making it rain, Dana would be damn hard to let go. When Cargo spots Lacey, he rushes over, thanks her all over again for what happened the other day, then leans in and asks if she's here about the bird's name. So Lacey ends. He blurts out, yeah, and asks what they were talking about earlier, then flashes this awkward little smile. Because she's seen something super embarrassing, like really embarrassing. Alan explained that he couldn't lock in the kid's name back then, because people usually pick names before the baby is even born. Helen shoots Wayne a look and blurts out, is that big guy your boyfriend? And Lacey rushes to deny it. Then Alan cuts in fast, saying he's really handsome and that she's got incredible taste. She's flustered and blurts at Wayne to stop smiling. Then they rush to the oracle, and Lacey's fate hangs in the balance. AC steps forward, ready to greet her again, and the smile freezes halfway when he spots the bird flutters in, and the old woman calmly declares, that's the child I've been desperate to name. When the oracle tells Lacey to speak the name she wants, Lacey freezes in shock and blurts out, it's not that simple. She doesn't even know what her own name means, or who gave it to her, and up until now she never really cared. Only after hearing the name Estelle did it finally hit her, how heavy it really was, what it truly meant, and even now. She still can't even work up the nerve to call herself, still, in front of anyone. So how in the world is someone like her supposed to decide something that huge for another person's life? The old woman leans in and tells you, softly but surely, that naming isn't about summoning something by yourself. It's about something bigger than just one person, and so instead of just nodding along, the lifelong charm gets used as the guiding force it was meant to be, and all Lacey has to do is ask one thing, does the child accept it? Usually she'd ask while the baby was still in her womb, but this time the child is already here, so she can finally ask straight to their face. Lacey scoops the phoenix into her arms, cradles it close, and murmurs, Fosha. Then she asks. He asks if it's okay, and the phoenix's eyes instantly light up as it springs into the air. Keeps her gaze fixed on him in sheer excitement, when Lacey whips her head back too. He asks if that means it's all good, and the oracle grins, then drops the truth. Fosha is an ancient word for flame, and it's perfect. Perfectly made for a child whose blazing fur shines like lightning, and it's the promise of a blazing life, and he sings its praises like it's the most beautiful name in the world. Man says, looks like it's all settled now, and then he suggests. Lacey tells him to turn back, and when she does, he shoots back that he'll be heading home tomorrow too, just. Right then, a newcomer bursts in, bows, and says he's about to slip away for good, coming just to pay his respects. The instant his eyes lock onto Lacey, his whole face contorts in shock. He stares like he's witnessing something sacred, gasping because she's the same girl who walked on the river. Then he just can't finish the thought. He clutches his chest, shaking hard, then blurts out he never thought he'd ever lay eyes on her again, let alone run into her at the absolute last second like this, and swears it's nothing short of a miracle. He blurts it out in a trembling rush. He's a merchant who comes to this village all the time, and during the flood, his carriage got stuck on the far bank while he just stared at the water swallowing everything, utterly crushed. If it had stayed like that, his cargo would have been wrecked, his money gone, and his whole life as a merchant would have been over. And he was so rattled his knees nearly buckled as he realized he might not even be able to eat again. Right when he was about to fall apart, she shows up like a miracle from the sky. And that day was so wild he couldn't thank her properly, so now he's basically been eaten alive thinking about it. Alive only because regret never let him go. He's been clutching that gratitude for ages. Now he can't wait to spill every last drop. Overcome by pure emotion, he lunges forward with arms flung wide, only to end up snagging the wands instead. Wayne's hand clamps down on his, squeezing hard without even noticing, while Wayne fires back a sharp, dangerous sideways look. The merchant goes rigid, like a statue, then yelps in pure shock, snaps his grip loose fast, and blurts out, stammering, Who are you? Wayne snaps his gaze to Lacey, calm but unshakable, warning her that merchants love to talk smooth, and that most of them lie. Plus he tells her it's still way too soon for her to mix with people like that. Right then, Alan bursts in with Fosha in his arms and demands, Are you already headed home? Because, yeah, they were. They wanted to turn back, but they got told, ask Grandpa first. And since they're already passing by his place, he'll bring the vegetable baskets along too. It jabbed at the merchant and chirped that with a build like that, he could totally carry them, right when Wayne flinched. Then Wayne snapped, "Are you the kid who delivers vegetables to Lacey?" And he thanked him since. Sincerely, he asks Alan if he can watch over her while he's gone, and Alan answers with total confidence, saying she can trust him, because she's done him so much good that he could never repay it, not even with a lifetime stash of vegetables. Later, when they finally spot the vegetables, Wayne's eyes light up like fireworks, and he blurts out that he's genuinely grateful. Lacey quietly panics, wondering if she can really finish all this, but he suddenly shouts to Phosha, "Can it eat vegetables too?" And then, watching how he can't help it, he bursts into laughter and says, "With that kind of appetite, you've got nothing to worry about." Thinking about appetite instantly makes Lacey remember the party's other big-time eater, Wayne the. Dean then says that while he was grabbing the vegetables, he overheard villagers gossiping about her. And she fires back that everyone had shown up the moment she froze the river, so there was no dodging it. He says it was. She dropped a remark that totally blew his expectations away, because she said she was genuinely living it up here in the best way possible. When she asks if he really believes it, he says, "Yeah, no doubt," then points out that the shop already has 2 customers lined up, and that alone is seriously impressive. He tells her what she pulled off is downright astonishing. She scattered the clouds to slam the rain to a halt, something almost nobody would ever even dare to try, and then he starts to trail off as the story keeps going. Then she remembers, she even busted the roof while doing it, and that detail makes her blush hard, embarrassed as ever later. As Wayne patches the roof, she frets and asks if it's truly safe and if he'll be okay, then offers to help. He just brushes it off, telling her he's fine, that it'll be quick, and to start making some tea. She goes still the second she sees him, staring because she finally clocks it. He's always worrying about her. And then her mind races back to the time when she was trapped in her contract, so life felt simple, because all she had to do was focus on one thing, staying in her role and doing it perfectly. Holes in his shoes, plates still left behind after every meal, and that water jug that never, ever seemed to empty. Things other people set up, she didn't watch any of it, none of it ever mattered to her, not even after. After she finally snags her freedom, she realizes she hasn't really slipped out of that old world at all. Wayne handed her this new life, and now she's determined to live it the right way, cherishing every second, before that thought even fully settles in her mind. Then another wish slides into place, and a cold realization hits her. If she wants to make it come true, she might have to put distance between herself and Wayne. When the Demon Lord Subjugation Squad first got formed, Wayne gave off this subtle, "don't get too close" vibe. He kept his distance from everyone, and his detached stare made it feel like he was watching from the outside. But it didn't last. Those elites couldn't hold it together for long. The states picked purely for skill were too cutthroat and selfish, because Wayne had no option but to step in and run the whole thing. Money talks, meals get handled, and he single-handedly keeps the chaos between companies under control, because without his relentless efforts, they never would have made it to the Demon Lord's castle. Out of everyone, she was fully clinging to Wayne. After traveling together for a whole year, she still couldn't even hold a proper conversation with the others unless Wayne was right beside her. Now that it's done, she can't stop thinking she should have talked to him more. She's clueless what anyone even thought, because everyone was kind, so She's startled when baby Phoenix screeched, snapping her out of her doze as she shook herself awake. She jolts herself awake, rushes over to Wayne, and demands, "What are you doing?" Wayne stays cool, tells her to check the roof he fixed earlier, and then if it's been leaking since then. She grabs his worry, tells him it's okay, and nudges him to take some. Wayne watches her closely for a beat, then softly tells her hair is slipping loose and urges her to sit down so he can fix it the right way. She waves him off and swears it doesn't matter, but he grins and won't back down. He's got it handled no matter how hard she protests. More than half a year has gone by since she first stepped into this village. Wayne shows up to see her like clockwork, around once a month, though there are a few months when he vanishes, and the distance from the capital makes it feel almost impossible. But when he finally does, he cooks, he cleans, and then, just when you think he can't get any sweeter, he brushes her hair too, and she asks. He leans in and asks, "You free right now?" And the other guy snaps back, "Yeah, I'm free." He totally gets what she's trying to say, but he's still trapped, not free. He's burning every single day of his vacation just to get here, and that's when she realizes she's about to. Panic hits, she spins around and blurts, "Is that okay with you?" Then she presses him like he doesn't have other things to handle, and before you know it, he meets her. She holds her gaze steady and says, "It's not that there aren't any, it's about what comes first," then brushes it off like nothing, "so don't worry about it." She thinks, Even if he claims he's showing up like this just to worry about her, he can't stop watching, because she's always been the unreliable one. If Wayne hadn't cared for real, she'd be stuck at the Duke's house right now, just wasting her days breathing, without even realizing she'd wished it that way. So, she just gained one more wish. And to make that wish come true, she has to keep going, no excuses. Keep her distance from Wayne, she's determined to set him free from her. Lacey says his name like it's nothing, a small smile tugging at her lips as she adds that she's going to. She swears she'll do everything she can to stay alive, and Wayne shoots back. I'm counting on you. She then admits, a little unsure, that she'll try to chip in at the shop too, like, does that mean she's turning into a jack-of-all-trades? Wayne leans in, raises a brow, and teases her softly, saying it's okay, but he still warns her. If she's thinking about leaving right away, check in with him first, or she might end up in trouble. She lets out a soft laugh, light as air, and sinks into the gentle warmth of his hand as it holds hers. She's still breathless that she met him, because even when she lets herself imagine what's next, she can't stop worrying that these simple, quiet little moments might someday slip right out of reach. It could get lonely when that moment finally hits, but for now she chooses to let it go, because she's determined to save herself this time, just a little longer, and stay right by his side. A sudden knock crashes the door, and she jolts. Her heart pounds so hard it feels like it'll break out. Her heart hammers for a split second, then she snaps to it and instantly recognizes that voice. He snaps his gaze toward Brooks and bolts out the door, and the second he sees Wayne, his eyes lock on. And he flashes a wide grin, equal parts amused and stunned, as if he can't believe what he's seeing in his. He clocks Wayne's energy, and his face lights up with it. Then his eyes lock onto Lacey's hair. He spots a bump and blurts it out, yanking a finger to the top of her head. Lacey stammers, cheeks flaming red, because that bump is just the neat little bun she tied. When they asked why he was here, he burst into an open laugh and said it was obvious after all this time. He just wanted to see their faces again. Later, once they finally sit down for lunch, Brooks bursts out laughing, claiming he seriously thought Lacey was still stuck in the Capitol. Then he leans in and asks, did she move? He snaps, wait, move. And it hits him in real time. He finally gets why he could only track Wayne by his scent. He rushes in and apologizes for not warning him about her move. Brooks waves it off, swears it's on him for showing up out of nowhere, and then he adds that he is. He's more furious that the souvenir slipped out of his hands, and that he'd been ready to surprise her with some fresh meat for the housewarming. Wayne snaps, saying Brooks should have told him he was coming, and Brooks just shrugs it off. He told them he'd been stuck in the royal capital on some petty errand, and only. Then it hit him, he remembered everything at last, and he rushed to meet her safely. Nothing else mattered. Else mattered? Lacey's surprised he even remembers she once lived there, even after all those rare, fleeting talks. Then she thanks him. She speaks with real sincerity and admits she's been wanting to write him a letter. Then he responds. She told him not to worry, because when it came to being terrible at letters, he'd never let her beat him either. Booming laughter erupts through the room, and she snaps back with a flinch. Like she can't quite handle how loud he is, even though a part of her thinks, yeah, he's a good person. Brooks shrugs and says letters are nice. But since they dragged themselves in person, Lacey and Wayne need to spill every single thing they've been doing. Then Lacey breaks into laughter. She chuckles under her breath and dives into her village days, raising the phoenix, running the shop, and juggling all those little chores that filled every hour, until she stops right at the end. At the end, she finally drops the bombshell. She says the engagement is off. Brooks nods like he just got what he wanted, then snaps his eyes to Wayne, and Wayne frowns, totally lost, because why is Brooks staring at him? Brooks explains that everyone was on edge, and the look on. The moment Lacey mentioned her fiancé, the heartbreak in her face crushed any hope of a bright future, no matter how he looked. Lacey. Casey says if Brooks doesn't mind. Brooks scratches his head and tells them all about who he is, and the errands he raced through to the royal capital. And Lacey gets flustered for a second before he whips the conversation into a new direction. He says she's started a jack-of-all-trades business, then asks if she'll do him a favor, and he hammers the point that she's not about to give up. Brooks told her, if it's impossible, you can refuse. Brooks swears the prize is 3 gold coins, and Lacey's jaw drops like that's way too much, while Wayne grumbles that Brooks is just guessing with whatever he's got, and that those gold coins were probably yanked from the reward money without a second thought. And Brooks grins, admits Wayne's right on the money, and fires back that this is what heroes do. Lacey waves it off like it's nothing, demanding she has to get every detail of the favor first. He nods, but the words get stuck. He can't quite explain it. Worry twists his face as he rubs his temple like it hurts. And he finally cracks, admitting he's in deep trouble right when the air. Aaron's headed for the royal capital to crack this mess, but laying out every detail would take forever, so he throws up a hand and tells them to follow, insisting it's better to just show them the way. They don't waste a second. Right when the silence breaks, they start moving, and before long, Lacey finds herself standing in his hometown, Utsuku. Kids tear through the streets, laughter exploding in the air while crowds pack the stalls, smiling like the whole world's on fire. Happily be. Buying food and trinkets, Lacey's eyes pop as she takes it all in and blurts out that it's insanely lively, while Wayne scans the chaos and jokes that it's like 100 Brooks have escaped. So he asks if today's different. Brooks just shakes his head, saying nothing's going on special because the town is always this way. Wayne insists Brooks' personality was forged by the land itself. Brooks just chuckles under his breath and says he doesn't really get that kind of stuff. This is Atsuku, Brooks' hometown, a one coastal town pressed against the southern sea, where fresh seafood and breathtaking scenery draw tourists in, and it's been that way for ages. Even though it's way beyond Lacey's village, the trip usually eats up a whole month in a carriage. But this time they tore through it in half a day, using horses and teleportation shrines scattered across the lands. Brooks can't believe someone got permission to use a shrine, yet he shrugs and says this town may look plain, but it's still his home. He shouts at the two of them to cram in tighter, because the horse's back end is snagging, right where there's not enough room. Right as the base titans strike, Wayne snaps Lacey to his chest. She jerks in shock, cheeks blazing as she realizes she's caught in his arms. He flicks his eyes down and blurts, "Are you hot?" And the sudden question makes her jolt in surprise while Brooks breaks into laughter and tells her to ditch her cape, warning that the afternoon heat is only going to crank up. But when she goes weirdly quiet, Brooks snaps. Something happened. She whips her head side to side and blurts that she's only been thinking about going home and making tea, and Brooks just nods along like, yep. Once she's done eating, it's her time to rest. She says she's so happy he showed up, then immediately asks, "So when's your next expedition?" Brooks locks eyes with her and starts explaining, "Since I can." Even with shrines that used to be off-limits under the old Zero authority, he can still reach them in time. No problem at all until the day after tomorrow. While they're walking, a woman who passes by suddenly breaks in place and blurts out, "Oh my gosh, that hat on Lacey is so cute." Lacey freezes the woman mid-step, then whips to Wayne with a cheerful grin and asks, "So, are you her boyfriend, Wayne?" Lane snaps his head toward Brooks and Brooks just shrugs, saying the town's folks are sweet, just way too pushy. He adds that Lacey isn't exactly great at stuff like this. Wayne steals a look at Lacey. She's almost panicking and her quiet desperation is screaming. People said it's not a bad thing at all. It's her chance to smash through her shyness. She's already grown a ton since arriving in the village, but she's still got a long road ahead. Brooks hums like he's thinking hard and asks Wayne if he's really giving it everything. Wayne snaps back that there's just no room for him to try hard here, and Brooks bursts into laughter and shouts to Lacey that he's going to show her around his town. He leads them straight to the heart of town, where a towering statue stands, and Brooke marches right up, throws caution to the wind, and copies its hero pose like she owns the place. Kids spot him instantly, crowding in like a wildfire, firing questions about whether he's headed to the royal capital, then erupting in cheers over his return. AC and Wayne leaned in, smiling softly as they watched the scene unfold. When Brooks finally comes back, Wayne can't help but say everyone's got their eyes on him, and he's seriously admired. He scratches his cheek and then blurts out, "The statue." The job was already finished when he finally returned from the subjugation, so they just kept pushing forward. Keep walking and let the town's noise slowly die off behind you. Lacey clocks the shift in the air and snaps, "It's gone quiet," and Brooks answers that the change has been made. Alex says it's finally time to handle the request, then points them in and tells them, "You've arrived at my dojo." Lacey scans the area, convinced the port being closer has something to do with it, and mumbles that spots like this usually buzz way more in the early morning, before Wayne's. Dean scans the whole building, asking if this really counts as a dojo, because the calm here feels too peaceful to be real. Then Brooks nods and says, "Yep, it trains the mind and the body." He tells everyone to ditch their shoes, leave them right at the entrance, and insists it's straight-up part of the country's culture. Then points out the whole building follows the architectural style of that land. Inside, everyone's grinding hard at practice. Lacey whirls around, stunned, and blurts out, "Are all of you Brooks students?" Brooks smirks and says lately they've been getting people from everywhere, even applicants from overseas who came all the way just to join. Lacey exhales in pure awe, whispering that it's incredible. while Brooks, the warrior, steps right into the Demon Lord subjugation party. While most candidates strutted into the selection meeting with nothing but themselves, word spread that these legends brought overwhelming strength, thanks to a special martial art called Qigong. While Qigong reshapes what's going on inside your body, magic doesn't. It's built on spell formulas that rewrite what's on the outside. And once you do that, you can forge the soul and make your whole body move with lightning speed, faster than even a horse could dream of. While Qigong reshapes what's inside your body, magic works by rewriting the outside through spell formulas, and that clash makes them a shaky match at best, so people believe you can't master both at once. Wayne says that, and you can tell. He's trying to lock in that school vibe with the subjugation reward right. Brooke flashes a grin and snaps. The school-style screening is a strict deal. He then points out that a kid like him would probably get rejected just for being too young, yet he still walks in with total confidence, sure he's enough, and he was. He even proved, during the subjugation journey, just how spectacular it could be. Brooks, from the very start, was obsessed with building his own school, always talking about it like it was the biggest dream in the world, and she listened like she had no choice but to treat it like his business. She even had the power to grant herself a wish. She can't stop thinking, what if her of now had been there, right in that conversation? And what was it again everyone kept wishing for? Brooks finally starts talking, lays out the request, and tells them to check something first. He drops the cloth-wrapped object onto the floor, then freezes, like he's seconds away from making a choice. He just blurted out that it's a nightmare to describe, then said it'd be way quicker to show you. So they could feel it firsthand, he apologizes in advance, then yanks the cloth open right as the moment hits. The second it opens, a brutal stench explodes into the air, so sharp it makes Lacey flinch. Casey, Wayne, and everyone around them snap their hands up to their faces and cover their noses the second it hits. He begs her to smell the maces himself and says, straight up, the stench is exactly as awful as it looks, because now he needs her help with this disgusting odor. He tells you his martial arts school is built around bare hands as the weapon, so armor isn't the focus. Then he says for beginners, steel gauntlets are a game changer because they help them picture their power growing and make training way easier. But the second he slips on those gauntlets, a gut-wrenching stench erupts, so unbearable it's basically instant doom. At the dojo, it would have been tolerable, but lately that stink has started creeping way past the doors. He asks if they remember that fishing port they just passed, the one that looked weirdly empty, and now the stench hangs around it, with a real chance it could creep into the rest of the town. The townspeople swear they don't mind, but Brooks knows the truth. This nuisance won't stop, and once it keeps going, it'll start wrecking tourism too, along with. He insists he's tried everything to stop it, but nothing has worked. Yet his dream of opening a dojo in this town is the one thing he's worked for his whole life, and he refuses to let it collapse over something like this. So he turns to Lacey and begs for help, demanding she deal with that nasty smell leaking from the armor, even though he knows this is a selfish ask. Lacey snaps back instantly. She's accepting the quest without even a second thought. Wayne slumps against the ceiling near the open space, letting A cool breeze slides over him. Today's weather's perfect, and the smell hasn't drifted this far yet. He snaps his gaze around. He barrels toward Lacey and demands to know if she's figured out a solution yet. Lacey stands nearby, blinking back tears, and then answers in an over-the-top dramatic voice like she's trying way too hard to convince everyone. Brooks told her to handle the stench leaking from his gauntlets, and after a quick burst of thought, she convinced herself she'd cracked a plan, so she agreed. What she didn't realize was that Brooks had already tried everything she came up with, right down to the same look. Even the place itself makes everything worse. This is a coastal area, and because day and night rewrite the wind's route, hot land and cool sea flip it back and forth. By night, the breeze grabs that sea smell and carries it out toward the ocean, but come daybreak it snaps around and shoves it right back into town. She pushes Brooks and asks, would it really be that big of a nuisance just from that? Brooks grins and says the place is different. Right by the sea, something lurks, a giant kraken, and he swears it doesn't just breathe through gills. Sometimes it drinks in magical power from the air, like it's yawning for energy, but here's the catch: magic and Kai clash hard. Inside the kraken, the gauntlets unleash a blast of magical energy and Kai-soured stench that crashes together. But since the beast is still dormant, the damage stays contained, for now. Once it hits its active period, the blast will rip outward and everything will get way worse than it is right now. Wayne pushes, asking if beating it will finally end the whole mess, but Wayne casually says that the tip of a kraken's leg is a local delicacy and tells them to try it sometime. And that's when color yanks out of Lacey's face as she stammers that talking about eating it so casually can't be normal. Yet Wayne, unbothered, just mutters that Brooks is unexpectedly open-minded. In the end, Lacey realizes it isn't just about deodorizing her gauntlets, because even if she blasts the stink away with wind magic, it doesn't disappear, it just comes right back, and which means she's stuck here day and night, and that kind of magic support can't honestly be called a real solution, so Lacey starts wondering if Brooks has any tricks left he hasn't tried yet. Wayne. Nene pauses, then blurts out, "What if it's magic tools?" Because she insists she wouldn't need magic or any magical power to use them. And yeah, magic tools are. Tools get forged when you cram spell formulas into magic stones brewed from magical beast bodies, turning them into handy things anyone can use to cast magic. Then he bluntly admits this mess might not fit any normal fix, because a machine fueled by nothing but run-of-the-mill magic stones simply won't have the sheer scale or raw power to handle it. Deal with it, and the second she hears that, her eyes widen because she finally realizes her thinking was painfully naive. If she can't pull this off, Brooks will absolutely lose it, then laugh and forgive her right after. She's fine either way, but rewards don't matter to her, because Brooks chasing something bigger, and that dream's all on his back, so what about his disciples? But what about the townspeople who can't stop praising Brooks Wayne? Lane shoots a quick glance and realizes she's gone silent. She leans in, murmuring, "I think I'm stuck," and admits it. She commits to that truth. Then he blurts out, just to be crystal clear, that he's not saying it to soothe her thoughtlessly, and he's damn sure he doesn't see her as useless. Anyone can chase the dream of becoming the country's top magician, but she's about to prove it isn't that simple, not for her. Proved she could pull it off, right there alone, and that's what makes her truly remarkable. She insists it's also true she can barely get a word out around anyone but him, and she looks like she could drop dead any second. So tell me, what's actually so incredible about a human like that? Wayne says maybe you're right, but she's trying to change, and that can't be ignored. She's pushing herself, and that effort is lighting up her confidence from the inside. His words slip into her chest like a quiet truth, and even though she knows not everything he says lands perfectly, she still can't bring herself to believe she's truly amazing. Even so, his words light a fire in her heart and tell her she doesn't have to quit, just as another thought crashes in, because she can't keep relying on that. Rely on him forever. She smiles softly and promises she'll push herself a little harder. Then, right on cue, her stomach growls loud enough to wake the whole world. Wayne freezes for half a second, then rage hits instantly. It's already noon, and skipping a meal is totally out of the question. She tries to argue, insisting now is not the time to eat and that she's gotta head home soon, but he just steamrolls over her, ignoring every word as he grabs her and drags her along. When there's nothing more important than keeping her stomach full, they stop. He pulled up at a street food stall and dug into a dish everyone talks about, right there in the air. The area crackles, the dish splits, and then, bam, crispy outside, silky inside, with a flavored depth that catches her off guard. The grilled squid is still just squid, but that sweet savory sauce clings to the thick flesh like it was made for it. It's plump, sweet, and ridiculously satisfying. Fresh seafood really is a seaside town luxury. When she's done, her stomach feels like it ate double what she ordered. Turns out the stall owner is both wildly generous and sharp at business. And that night, long after she's curled up and drifted into sleep, Wayne slips out of the room in silence, and Brooks gives him a clear thumbs up. She slides up to him and asks if she's caught him asleep, and he shrugs, saying Wayne must be dead tired after roaming around all day. Then he goes on to say, Brooks shrugs off his plan, saying it can all wait till tomorrow, but Brooks immediately shakes his head and tells him he's got real business with him, then casually drinks. Drinking, he swears this is the first time the two of them have ever drank together, and Wayne shoots back that it's already way too late, before Brooks. He bursts out laughing and tells her it's totally fine. They should all toast properly. Wayne's grinning as he clinks his cup with Brooks, raising a cheer for his coming of age, for Lacey's being sent off, and for the opening of Brooks' school. Brooks leans in and asks how the request is going. No, how Lacey herself is doing. Then Wayne snaps back that everything's completely stuck, and he's about to start bitching. Even while she sleeps, her mind won't let it go. Brooks admits he might have started the mess, but once Wayne refused earlier, it turned into the perfect opening. She finally gets a shot to step outside, because if she's going to run a shop, she can't just handle customers who are easy to talk to. Brooks isn't some random stranger. He's the companion Wayne traveled with for a whole year, so this is the perfect way for her to get used to it. Brooks from. They say, yeah, nothing about her has changed at all. Then, just out of nowhere, she hits Wayne with a question. Does he like her? Wayne gets hit with the shock of it all and blurts out a frantic denial before he can even think. Brooks tilts his head, still not buying it, but he drops the argument and admits, yeah, something special is definitely happening. The next morning. Good morning, Lacey snaps awake feeling fully refreshed, like the day is already cheering her on having. After a real night's sleep and a full meal, she feels lighter than air. She steps out of her room and scans the place, trying to figure out if the two of them are still out cold. Then quietly sets a plate for breakfast, like he's hiding something, later. She drops into her seat with a bittersweet look on her face, because just like that, the clock screams it's time to go home, and those 2 days vanished way too fast. And in the end, they threw everything at the problem, but still, no solution ever showed up. Wayne grins and admits he has to bolt too, something about an expedition, but he still asks if she shouldn't stay a little longer. Then she just shakes her head. She shakes her head, she can still think up a solution back home, and she refuses to leave Fosher alone for too long. Wayne Grosby. Things turn deadly serious as he calls her name, leans in, and whispers that this expedition could drag on for ages, and that he probably won't be able to drop by for a while. She tells him to slow down and not burn himself out, and he instantly fires back that she shouldn't drive herself into exhaustion either. Pointing at her, he growls that she needs more breathing room in her life, more hobbies, more joy, more days that actually feel alive. A good job comes from a good life, and she can't stop staring at him as he talks. For a moment, she teases him and calls him Mom, then snap, he loses it. Maybe somewhere deep down, he can't even remember giving birth to her as they separate, he leans in and reminds her that someone has to escort her back. She flashes him a quick wave and he strides off, glances back at her for a split second, and his words about liking her hit like an echo in the air. A thought flickers in his mind for a split second, but he shoves it away hard, no matter what it is, because Fosha decides he just doesn't care. She's out in the garden by the door, and in the bushes nearby, someone is quietly stalking her, so close that the whole air feels wrong. Meanwhile, Lacey rushes to thank Brooks for getting her home, then leans in and tells him that she'll track him down again the second the request moves forward. Then she slips into her house, calls out, Fosher, I'm back, and the pain hits like a punch to the gut. When her treats hit, she freezes, pure shock and a wild boy. Inside, a savage boar stands its ground. Then perched on top of it sits a smug, thrilled foe, grinning like it owns the place. He's a wild boar, proud warrior of the nearby forest, standing there unstoppable, but the other day, a random passerby wiped the floor with him. Somehow he escaped, yet his pride was still. He was left absolutely shattered. Meanwhile, that wild boar kept circling the mansion, eyes locked on revenge, waiting for the perfect opening. And since he'd been trusted to guard the place while everyone else was gone, there was no way he was letting this go. But peace finally swept in under the banner of friendship. Once Lacey hears their story, she agrees to let him stay, but she snaps, telling him that if he's stepping into that house, he'd better brush every last speck of dirt off his feet first. Then she locks back in on Brooks's request, and after everything clicks into place, she finally decides to rethink that magic tool she'd once turned down. Going back and forth to the village is still a brutal trek, and Brooks has had enough. He can't keep doing it. And he's made it clear he wants a solution anyone can use, not one that only works because of her special abilities. So honestly, building a tool is the easiest path to get it done. She's practically glowing with relief. She managed to snag magic stones right there in the village. When Wayne brought it up before, she shut the idea down fast. Turns out the magic you can trap inside a magic stone is seriously limited, so only small, simple spells can usually fit in there. Even with. She's been reclaiming farmland, and it feels less like hero stuff and more like non-stop cleaning, plus we never thought magic could even touch something like that, especially not wiping away stink like it was nothing. She darts a quick look at Fosha, who's happily wrestling with a wild boar, and it hits her that even when she was alone, the phoenix looked like she was absolutely enjoying herself. Then her gaze snapped to something ahead. She stares at that boar and can't stop wondering, does bringing it here mean the food bill is about to explode? Later, she scans one of the fields. Here, crops shoot up fast and even vegetables thrive. And then she suddenly doubts slam into her. Was this really what she should be doing right now, when the request still hasn't moved an inch while she keeps thinking it and scolds herself for it? Because Brooks is still haunted, and she can't keep running from reality or waste time like this. Then it hits her, Wayne's words ring in her head. A good job can only come from a good life, and she finally lets herself lie down. Under a tree, he kept replaying his words in his head. Then his eyes fluttered, and he drifted off into a slow sleep. The souvenir she picked for Fosha was a pack of raka flower seeds, the kind that bloom in Brooks's village. She fretted over whether they'd take here, whether the climate would throw everything off, but maybe. Just. Because it fits the land perfectly and magic powers it, this thing sinks in fast just like that. In note. No time at all. Somehow, a tiny flower garden sprouts in the backyard corner. She stares at it as petals float down like little miracles, murmuring that it's beautiful, and even as memories hit, she thinks of Brooks's village and how their sweet scent clung to her hair long after. A few days. 2 days later, Brooks bursts in, face wet with tears, barely able to get the words out. Overwhelmed with joy, she blurts out that she saved him. Then he shoots back, "I was." He got so overwhelmed he burst into a run, and just like that, he was already there. She shoots him back with a grin. As he blurts, "I can't believe something that tiny can fix this," he shoots the question, then leans in, asking. She asks if that scent is the perfume of a rock flower, and she shoots back, "Yeah, exactly." She figured the flower's strong, sweet perfume might drown out that awful stench, and she knew the smell was something the townspeople all recognized. Still, he pushes back, asking if it's really not just a disguise, because he's already tried drowning that smell with other scents before. She leans in and tells him, this time it's different. Fosha slipped just one flower into the house, and its power exploded through the air. Its scent flooded every corner and even crushed the wild boars, stink down to almost nothing. Brooks then presses a handful of coins into her palm. Then she tells her. He snaps back that it's too much, but the other guy refuses to budge, insisting it's exactly right. He says. It says he's stuck wondering if gratitude can even be priced. But this amount still feels way too small for how thankful he is. He just wants her to take it. Then she becomes. He stumbles, cheeks burning, and blurts out that they're comrades. So yeah, it's fine. He softly tells her point blank that they're not comrades anymore, and she instantly realizes it. Realization hits him like lightning. He's right, and the journey finally comes to a hard stop. And the crew that once brought them together for that exact mission is gone for good, so when that hits you, it starts to weigh on your heart. With that thought comes. Then a quiet question lands in her head. What do they call this relationship now? She pauses for the smallest beat, then quietly asks, can we be friends instead? Instead, he shoots back, I won't claim it's impossible, and then he turns his eyes to Lacey. He's cool with it, she can write letters or just swing by in person to make it faster. And then he adds that. He'd be thrilled if she dropped the honorifics too. Now that his business is done, hearing that kind of distance just makes him feel painfully alone. But he can't force himself to say anything else, because he's scared she'd feel awkward around someone like him. Before she even registers it, tears burst from her eyes, and the journey. The journey is finally over. She truly believed there was something more, didn't she? Beyond it, there's no road, just a dazzling memory waiting to fade. But somehow, that bond keeps surging forward, refusing to end. These memories don't just stop here, they're just getting started. Can still build more, smiling. Through tears pouring down her face, she vows she'll return to his village someday and even start sending letters too. And just like that, she clears the quest, safe and sound. Later, while he was kicking back with Alan, he shot a quick glance. He shoots a glance at her distracted face and blurts out, has your boyfriend still not shown up? Then he wonders if she got dumped and is spiraling, and he starts talking over himself. Maybe it's because of that guy who showed up the other day. But wait, there's no way that guy is her boyfriend, right? He blurts out that her boyfriend's got blonde hair, then catches himself and swears it's brown. And then he hesitates like people claim it might even be black, suddenly. Flustered, he blurts, wait, does she really have a bunch of boyfriends? Then the concealment magic hits him. It doesn't hide her face at all. It bends what everyone sees, so each viewer only gets the plainest version their mind can conjure. He finally leans in and asks, if it's not about your boyfriend, then why do you look so crushed? She snaps back, I'm not depressed, but even the... She swore she'd become a jack of all trades, but not a single new request has shown up, so he's left asking, what's going on? Asks what kind of request she's already gotten, and she hesitates, convinced the Phoenix matter is too messy to explain, while Alan already knows what happens next, so... Instead, she tells him she whipped up a sachet as a quick fix for the stench. He takes a sniff, and his face lights up because it reeks of her house, something he'd been wondering about, and then she offers to let him take it if he wants it, and he beams with pride, telling everyone his mom would be over the moon, only to trail off with one more thing. Just then, a merchant slips in from behind them and raves that the sachet smells incredible, asking if he could see it up close. Lacey leaned in and whispered to Alan, so, who is this man? Man, he leans in and whispers back. It's that merchant who shows up in the village every so often. The merchant leans in, studies the sachet with sharp focus, and then tells her not to. He refuses to hold back, calling it an insanely impressive magic tool, then shoots his question, "Did you make it yourself?" And when she starts to answer, he's like, "So when can I?" He confirms it, grins wide, and asks if she's got more just like that, then slips in that he wants to buy as many as she can make. Later, Alan swoops in and helps her pack the scent sachets, saying he's already done and urging her to finish the embroidery. She thanks him and brings up that more magic stones are about to be ready soon. Then he spots it. The flowers for the scent are dwindling, and her face falls into a sharp frown as realization hits her. She might need to push the flower garden bigger, just a little. She thought about what she'd made for Brooke's request and couldn't believe where it had led. Now she was turning out sachets on the merchant's order. Turns out the scent bags she stitched up are flying off the shelves like wildfire, especially with the women in the royal capital. They started out as controlled dojo supplies, but before anyone could blink, these things exploded into a village-wide business overnight. At first, she went to Alan for help, because she'd hit the cap on how many she could make on her own. Even if it only lasted for a moment, they pulled it off. Somehow, they made it happen. They shot to fame in Clum Village by pumping out these ornaments like they owned the place. Sure, plenty of folks could make neat, stylish stuff, but the way she sewed, embroidered, and tinkered to boost the magic stones and fragrances, that part was totally her own. She made sure the scent would bloom into a flower shape, not just sit there as a plain extract. And the merchant swore he could feel it too, saying these are going to be the absolute must-have craze of the summer. Then he drops another demand. She has to label every pouch, no excuses, no something. It's something tiny and personal, like initials or a little picture. Some people even slap their own name on it, and when she asks if he's doing it just for decoration, but he insists it's not mere decoration. It's a symbol, a ticket to recognition, and no matter how many sachets she churns out, the demand will crush her every time until knockoffs start flooding the market. In a moment like this, only the real deal will cut through, he mumbles under his breath. Butters can't stand seeing cheap, junky goods get the price drop. So he pushes the idea of calling them scent magic tools for the difference and slaps the mark on it as the extra value. She leans in and carefully stitches her own mark into the corner of every pouch. Alan leans in, studies her stitches, and goes, "You do all the embroidery yourself." Like, wait, doesn't that sound insanely hard? She chuckles under her breath, saying it's just a simple pattern, then swears she's pouring in magic like a charm just to make it work. Once Alan exits, she sinks back into her chair and stares ahead, drinking in the silence. She's unreal at the pouches. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows she needs money to live, but when she sees that massive pile, unease crawls up her spine. Mine's thoughts drift straight to Wayne. Months have slipped by since they split up even. She's supposed to keep her distance, but instead she can't stop thinking about talking to Wayne the moment she meets him. And day after day, that thought keeps piling up. Wayne slides with the monster-hunting crew, blade flashing as it cleaves through the air, every muscle locked tight. Just yesterday, he was buzzing with hope as the relief supplies rolled in. Today, yeah, that hype dies fast, because the monsters start attacking in this weird, synchronized pattern, nothing like how they normally fight. A teammate's shout rips him out of his head, back into the moment. Shaking his finger behind him, he snaps his gaze forward and cuts off mid-sentence, like he's about to expose something huge. Then he sees he's a demon, watching everything from the shadows, while a monstrous, spider-like creature looms right beside him. Wayne's instincts scream at him. He yells for everyone to fall back and crack open their healing potions because he's going in. He will. They'll take care of the rest, so they bolt toward the cave exit, but Wayne doesn't slow down. Every swing of his sword hammers down the smaller ones. He can't stop thinking, if I just had a holy sword, because holy swords don't exist for anything else. They're made to destroy the demon lord. With the demon lord gone, everything crumbles, because now, without it, he's nothing but a former hero. He spots a teammate stuck like a statue. What the heck are they doing? He blurts, "Hey." The man stammers, frozen in place, unable to move, and Wayne shuts him down with a hard stare and a word. Tells him to unleash his magic. He knows exactly what to do. Keeping those monsters at bay is just a temporary leash. Every second they stall, and the swarm multiplies. With a single brutal swing, Wayne drives his sword straight into the demon's chest. Mace watches, wide-eyed and impressed, like he always knew our captain would crush it. Then Wayne suddenly grabs his. His chest heaved as he fought for breath. Then the mace suddenly froze in mid-swing, and the captain hesitated, totally clueless about what was happening. "Captain," he shouts as panic surges. Wayne wobbles hard, and just as Mace closes in, he crumples to the ground. The demon flashes a wicked grin, while the sword stays buried in her body. Suddenly, Lacey snaps awake, her chest pounding like it's trying to escape. Her heart drummed like a war drum. She insists it's just a nightmare, nothing more. She can't shake the feeling like it's actually happening. She finally decides she'll write a letter, because it's been way too long and her thoughts start racing head. Her head still spins as she gets up, then she flings the door open and stops cold. There stands Wayne, dead calm, grinning like no time passed. "Long time," he says, and suddenly it all feels unreal, like the dream is leaking straight into real life. That's the video for today. Smash a like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment if you want part 2.